Part 84. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 834. Although Sugu quickly closed his eyes as a result of conditioned reflex when the salt was sprinkled on him, there was still a little bit of salt in his eyes, which was a painful feeling. Sugu rubbed his eyes desperately, but it felt like nothing was enough, and tears streamed down his face. In contrast to Swafen, who has a worried face, she has no conscience, and she is talking about Changchun. Although she loves her so much, she does not have any worries or fears that the admiral will go blind. Instead, she smiles happily and keeps saying, the admiral is going to become a salty fish. In this case. So much so that he heard it and wanted to put her head in the water and soak it. Laugh. Do you know that the consequences may be serious, although it seems that there will be no consequences at present. After Fubuki went out, she was really worried about her sister. Bai Shui followed her out and she also saw everyone. Compared to Fubuki, who was startled, apart from being surprised, she behaved much better, at least nothing could be seen on the surface. There was definitely nothing Sugu could do, so Fuzang explained to them that Changchun and Swafen were complementary. Of course, Changchun has introduced its identity well and has grown up boldly. Originally a little carrot head, she turned into a girl with an explosive figure. So this is I see. Excuse me, may I ask? They nodded, continued to nod, and occasionally asked a question or two. After a while, Fubuki and Shirayuki finally understood everything, but in fact they were still a little confused. In short, it was barely clear that it was not a monster, but the real admiral. Fuxiu apologized to Sugu. It's okay, Sugu waved his hand. Things have come to this, and we can't scold Fubuki, so we can only forgive her. I shed a lot of tears and finally felt that I was almost done with it. Of course, my eyes were still a little red. Still a little uncomfortable and blinking constantly, Sugu looked at Chui Shui. To be honest, no matter what he encountered, it was not surprising. A warm hug or a cold "do you still know how to come back" was understandable. But this is the first time we have met each other and sprinkled salt on each other. So he raised his own question, "Girl, what happened to you?" "Sprinkle salt to drive away evil spirits," Fubuki explained, and she muttered, "I thought I met a fox fairy. Why are you all wearing fox masks? It's weird, isn't it?" Changchun took off the mask and looked at it. It wasn't a ghost mask, so he didn't think so. Putting himself in Chuixiu's place, Sugu thought for a while, what if he encountered friends and relatives who he heard had been missing for a long time suddenly appeared, and then wore strange masks? If it was night, I don't know what I would do. Even in broad daylight, it may not be any better, I must be a little scared. It is understandable that a brave and fearless man like me is afraid, and that a little girl would do such a thing. It's not the same thing to stand in the corridor all the time. Bai Shui took everyone to a resting place. I'm really afraid of monsters, because I always encounter strange things when walking on the road, Fubuki said. From time to time, I dream about my third sister, Chugxiu. I know that is my sister, and what my sister looks like in the dream. Extraordinarily clear. She has long sky blue hair tied into a low ponytail and a very cute face. She is very energetic and a telekinetic athlete. Also, for many nights, I sat outside the shrine and looked at the woods in a daze. The fourth sister Miyuki would appear. In the woods, she has a weak character and speaks in a soft voice. It just so happens that there are always two will-o'-the-wisps around her. They are really monsters and ghosts. They disappear when you rub your eyes. But we don't have a sister at all. Chui Shui put her hands behind her back and looked at Sugu. Right, Admiral. Yes, you have a younger sister. I'm sorry. Thinking like this, Sugu didn't know how to answer, but fortunately Chui Shui didn't continue to ask. Changchun is curious about everything, whether it is the wind chimes hanging under the eaves or the green bamboo in the courtyard. When passing by the main hall, she looked at the statues enshrined inside with curiosity. The reason is that Sugu was showing off his knowledge along the way and mentioned it many times. Some shrines enshrine strange gods, such as the Poor God Shrine, Oga Shrine, and shrines that enshrine many dolls, and even Momotaro Shrine. There are 8 million Shinto gods, and even 8 million is not a number, but represents infinity. All things are animistic and all are gods. Bai Shui answered her question, he was just an ordinary god. No matter what, you can worship. Changchun has a rich imagination and a wide range of ideas. Since you are ship girls, why not just worship the god of ship girls? May everyone be safe during the expedition, or find the admiral of your choice. Isn't it a great idea? Changchun crossed his arms and thought, Changchun, you are really a genius. Most of the ship girls have no objection to joining the garrison. The main reason is that the propaganda from the admiral, the government, and the ship girl headquarters is useful. A ship girl who does not join the garrison is a wandering ship girl, and her life is not perfect. In this case, finding an admiral you like is the top priority. The admiral likes to discuss which ship girl is better and worth pursuing. The Fenghua Snow Club's Hasho is very beautiful, and the Coconut Island Club's battle cruiser Courageous is a girl who is cute and lovable. Sugu heard from San Juan that he used to work in the company, and his friends usually had nothing to do. They would occasionally discuss which garrison was better to join. How about the admiral, handsome, strong, gentle, cold, African, or for a ship girl can give up everything. Holy to the god of ship girls. Bless ship girls to find a favorite admiral. As shrine maidens, our own admiral is so bad, who dares to come? When Sugu heard Fubuki say this, tears were about to flow down again, not because of the salt, but I felt ashamed, thinking that there was nothing I could do, and I didn't know it was that bad. Fubuki didn't notice his twisted expression. She thought about it and said, besides, who is the god of ship girls? She was stunned by the question. Changchun held her head in both hands. She walked restlessly in circles in the corridor. Suddenly something came to her mind and she slapped her left palm with her right hand. How about worshipping the most powerful ship girl? Who is the most powerful ship girl? Fubuki asked. This is a question that has no answer, because no one is convinced by anyone. Changchun patted his chest. The future is an era of beyond visual range strikes, and the future is an era of missiles. For example, what about the guided missile destroyer Changchun? There was no need to think at all. Fubuki rejected such a proposal at that time. There is no reason to speak of, nothing to consider. Let's not say that she didn't see the battle in Changchun. Even if it was earth-shattering and devastating, a missile sank the world's cutest fortress princess, or the world's second cutest deep-sea turpits, it just wouldn't work. Sugu was listening. He wanted to tell Changchun that the future was the era of aircraft carriers, and guided missile destroyers were only used for escort. When he saw the statue in the main hall, a possibility suddenly occurred to him. Although I got so many ship girls because of the game. But in the minds of many admirals, they are a well-deserved European emperor, and even worse, a Martian. Will there be a day when an admiral puts himself on the altar? Lord Sugu, please bless me to build a battleship. Sugu felt that the idea was good, but after thinking about it, he felt a little strange. It didn't take long for them to arrive at the resting place, and Bai Shui brought fruits and snacks. We entered the shrine, but we didn't see you. Are you here? Sugu looked at the decoration in the room, which was ordinary. Only in front of his sister, he has no image at all. In front of others, Fubuki sat upright and answered, yes. Changchun thought of the money box. She looked inside, but unfortunately she couldn't see anything. It was too dark. She asked, someone is coming, aren't you watching? What if they take the money in the box, it's all taken away and you don't even know? There are no such mean people, Fubuki said, and the money in the money box is money dedicated to the gods. I don't know if he saw everything clearly or if it was a mistake. Changchun hit the nail on the head. The money in the money box was obviously spent by you. Having been a shrine maiden for a long time, this is just a small problem. She will not be overwhelmed by the question at once. Fubuki is a good stick. The daily expenses of the shrine, as well as maintenance, worship activities on special days, the spread and development of the belief in the gods, these things all cost money. It's not that we took away the gods' money and spent it ourselves, we just used the money on behalf of the gods. The money still belongs to the shrine and belongs to the gods. Changchun saw the leftover pudding bottle and asked, "Is this the pudding that God has eaten?" "I ate it," Fubuki admitted without hesitation. She said, "This is the food given to me by the gods." Changchun looked around, and Cui Shui opened his hands. "Everything here belongs to the gods, we just keep it for you and use it for a while." Unable to argue with Chuixu, Changchun said, "You are also gods." No, Cui Shui held her face and looked at Sugu with deep love and blame. "We belong to the admiral, but he doesn't want us anymore." Even if they don't take it seriously, they still have a good impression. In fact, most of them are due to fish frying or expeditions, so there is no secretaryship specially placed. Sugu looked a little ashamed at the beautiful girl. She had been away for so long. Normally, she would be very angry. Holding the side of her face with her left hand, Fubuki sat next to the short table and looked at Sugu sideways. "Admiral, don't leave again, okay?" Almost every ship girl has asked this question and has answered it many times. Sugu said without any hesitation, "Of course." Fubuki held her cheeks and looked at Sugu with a bright smile. "Then it's agreed, Admiral, let's sign the contract and we will never leave Fubuki." Sugu felt a chill inexplicably. He looked around and saw that there was no wind. He looked at Fubuki, it seemed a little strange. "Can I refuse?" Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 835. What is this? Changchun stood next to the stall under the shade of the tree. Sugu finally signed a contract with Fubuki. Of course, he didn't get any special naval gun. As long as he picked it up and waved it, a holy light would appear. Then he was forced to put on a sailor suit, sailing feet appeared on his feet, and a ship suit appeared behind him. There are naval guns, there are torpedo launch tubes, and finally they become magic ship girls. The goal is to destroy those deep-sea ship girls wreaking havoc on the sea. To be honest, I feel happy but also a little sad at the same time. No regrets at all. I haven't seen the local girls Hinata, Ise, and others, and I learned that they went out. Then talking about the matter at the Tutelary Mansion, many people have already returned to the Tutelary Mansion, so you are too late. Akagi and Ziwahi have become a wedding couple. It's finally not like before. The Japanese family obviously has so many people but not a single wedding couple. It's really embarrassing and makes it hard to raise your head. After chatting for a long time, Changchun was really not a quiet person. She looked around and felt bored. Finally she couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to take a walk inside the shrine. She didn't lower her voice deliberately, Fubuki heard it, so she stood up and decided to take everyone around the shrine. The guardian is the peace talisman. Chuixu saw what Changchun was holding, she answered, and picked up another guardian. Before the exam or competition, you can ask for a qualified and winning guardian. Old man passed. I bought a longevity guard for my birthday. Kuagon, do you want a guard in Changchun? There is a peace guard here to bless you with a smooth journey and not to fall when you attack. Let's just leave it to fantasy. She fell hard. I never fall, because no one can survive my BGM, and no deep-sea ship girl can still float on the sea after a missile battle. Don't believe me, I'm not bragging, the missile is it's so powerful, with high damage and 100% hit rate. Having said that, Changchun still took Chuixu and handed it to the guard, holding it in his hand and looking at it over and over. When Fubuki saw Yukikaze, of course he would not forget her, our cute little angel, Yukikaze, here you go. Sugu was next to him and saw the word lucky written on Yashao. He thought that Swafeng didn't need to be lucky. It was the people around her who needed luck more. Thinking about it, I'm afraid no amount of luck would be enough. She was not making people unlucky, but it sucks all the luck away. Only Shinano can be a good friend, since there is no luck to suck anyway, so Daifeng reluctantly makes do. Fubuki became like a salesman. She glanced at Sugu and handed Fuzu a card with the words good marriage written on it. She didn't speak, just blinked. Fuzu took the card and wanted to retreat, but he didn't really mean it. Seeing Fubuki turning her head, she wanted to convince herself that there was no other way, so she might as well put it away. Holding it like this makes me feel a little shy, embarrassed, too embarrassed. Fubuki took a piece of Imperial Guard and handed it to Sugu. It read on it, "This is super expensive. Even so, the admirals who come to our shrine all have one." Sugu still knew a little bit. For example, Inari was the god of grain and food in mythology, and each god had its own part in charge. If anyone in the townhouse has the most business acumen, Atlanta is the one. Not to mention the various products, the maids and bunny girls serving each other are hard to refuse. As long as there is an admiral, the customers will not be simple. Seeing the guardian in his hand, he thought that there were experts in this shrine. He joked, "The gods you worship are still responsible for the construction of the admiral." Fubuki smiled and said, "The gods enshrined in our shrine are omnipotent. There was no such job before." Sugu laughed, "It will be in the future." A blush appeared on Chui Shue's face. She reached out to Sugu and asked for it, "Don't forget it. You'd better treat it like a donkey's liver and lungs and give it back to me." I accepted it. The initial construction was the aircraft carrier Yorktown, and the second construction was the aircraft carrier CV-16, and MRS-16 got it. Although it's already very European, I don't mind making it a little more European. Next time, my goal will be the Duke of York. Sugu shook Yushao and asked curiously, "Can I get one for Xiaozai?" The guardian can't just give it away, but you can ask for one for her. Fubuki thought for a while and said, "Is it just a small house? You have so many wedding ships, Lexington, Saratoga, Sister Akagi, and the Tutelary residence. There are so many sisters, Kaohsiung sister, Atago sister, New Orleans, where are they?" Sugu fell silent for a moment. "If you give this, you can't do without that. You can't favor one over the other. Everyone should have one, there are too many people in the guarding mansion." Sugu was still in trouble. Changchun took the Imperial Guard and wanted to open the knot. "What is inside?" "There is a note and a small wooden sign." Chui Shui reminded, "Changchun, don't open it, otherwise it will release the divine energy inside, and there will be no blessing effect." Changchun immediately thought of a way to deal with it. "I'll take a look, and then just change it." Fubuki had nothing to say, so she thought, "Please, be sincere." How did she know that Changchun, like Sugu, had no faith at all? Not to mention defeating the demons and monsters. Anyway, no matter what kind of deity you are, you should be afraid of the few rather than the many. You will not reject anyone who comes, and you will believe in whichever one is valid. It is pragmatism. Now that he knew what was inside, his curiosity was satisfied, but he still didn't open it. Changchun looked at the counter. "I want one more. It's nothing valuable at all." Of course Fubuki won't refuse. "Okay. 2, Changchun asked cautiously. Even for her, it felt a bit too much. "Today is a good day," Fubuki waved his hand, "take whichever one you want. Luck, a good match, a good journey, peace." Changchun chanted and took a lot of them. Sugu listened and thought to himself, girl, what do you want a good match for? You don't need a god, the admiral is right next to you. It doesn't seem to matter even if you wear a few guards. Chuixu thought for a while and said, Changchun can have as many guards as he wants, as long as he wants, but the guards must be worn at all times, hanging on the neck, hanging on clothes, and finally at least put it in your bag. Moreover, the effect of the guardian is only for 1 year. Please keep it properly. After 1 year, it is best to return it to the shrine where the guardian was originally invited and ask for another one. If you really can't go, you must treat it with respect. Hard, sprinkle it with a little salt, and burn it. Then I'd better not give it up. There are so many rules and it's so troublesome. Changchun suddenly put down the guard in his hand. To be honest, Sugu also felt a little troubled. Originally, I still needed to find someone, but now it doesn't matter. When I came to the shrine, how could I not pray? Changchun was fine, Fuzang didn't matter either. Swifeng made Sugu a little worried, but he couldn't stop her. The little loli has a bit of low self-esteem and is quite sensitive, so she must be careful. Unlike other people, Missouri and York City are fine no matter how they joke, but not South Dakota. She is carefree and doesn't care about anything, but she will choose to take it seriously. Saying Missouri give me a kiss only resulted in a punch. Say South Dakota is so cute, I really want to kiss her, and she will really come close to her face. After everyone prayed, Su asked Swifeng, Swifeng, what wish did you make? Swifeng smiled. She was very happy to have the admiral by her side these days. It won't work if I say it. It doesn't matter, just tell the admiral quietly. Sugu thought to himself, it's just that his wish didn't work. In fact, thinking about it, he wasn't really worried. When passing by the Kagura Hall, Fubuki introduced, on important festivals, we will dance Kagura dance here. Changchun suddenly became excited, jump and show me. Fubuki touched her hair. She was usually disdainful, but she still practiced hard in private. She wanted to show off her skills whenever she wanted. After 3 years of silence, she became a blockbuster. However, her skills were not up to par in the end. Some things were really amazing. It depends on talent, Bai Shui is better at it, just ask her to dance for you. Changchun looked at Bai Shui, and Bai Shui looked at his sister Chui Shui angrily. Although she didn't care in front of strangers, she was a little shy in front of familiar people. She waved her hand, I can't do it. Sugu actually wanted to take a look, but he didn't want to embarrass Bai Shui. Changchun didn't have such a big idea, Bai Shui, please. Bai Shui was really not good at refusing. Looking at Sugu's eyes with some expectation, he finally nodded helplessly. Admiral, wait a moment, Bai Shui said. She also wanted to prepare some props. For Sugu, the first shrine maiden he met was the childhood goddess Kikyo. Later, I saw too many witches, and of course they exist in anime, so I won't go into details one by one. He has never quite understood why witches are so popular in anime, but now he finally understands. I never had the opportunity to go to a foreign country before. After coming to this world, I have indeed been to the shrine several times, but I have never had the opportunity to see Kagura Mai. I heard that Xianghe can dance, and it seems that Akage can also dance. Although she can eat, she is actually versatile, but I have never thought of it. This time I saw white snow, which can be said to be the first time in history. At the top of the Kagura Hall, Shirayuki was wearing a crown from the top of her head, holding a Kagura bell and a cypress fan. Ring the bell, ding ding ding, spread your hands. Ring the bell, ding ding ding, take a step. The movements are precise. Kagura dance is undoubtedly a quiet dance, quite restrained and full of ritual. After looking at it for a while, to be honest, Sugu didn't think it was very good looking. He just had no discernment and was just a layman. I still prefer Lexington wearing a dancer's costume and dancing that kind of exotic dance, like a peerless enchantress. Otherwise, Missouri once performed pole dancing and it was so eye-catching. Changchun looked around. She felt bored and really rude. Bai Shui actually saw Changchun. She didn't have any expression, didn't stop, and didn't have any panic in her movements. Naturally, Sugu will not be like Changchun, and now he has seen some tricks. There is still nothing to be seen from the dance, but the sacred and inviolable sense of holiness in Bai Shui's body makes people very concerned about it, and it couldn't be more beautiful. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 836. Li Yulai Shrine and Jiya Shrine, Sugu sat on the smooth stone slab under the big banyan tree. The sunlight shone on him through the gaps in the dense canopy. When he looked around the shrine, he thought of these two names. To be honest, it is really strange. I have never heard of it or been there before, but it appears in my mind inexplicably. As a Japanese, no matter who you are, you still have some respect for the gods. Only Changchun has no taboos. She touched the fox statues on both sides of the shrine, and suddenly had the idea of climbing up, but Fubuki quickly caught her with his eyes and hands, not to go too far. Not to mention statues of gods, even if they are just ordinary statues in some scenic spots, or the stone lions at the gate of the government, it would be impolite to just climb up. Someone stopped her, but Changchun didn't hold back. She was not an unreasonable person, she just didn't understand and felt it didn't matter. Since she couldn't climb up and ride on it, she circled around the fox statue and held the fox's thigh in a pose that she thought was wilder and cool. She liked to show off the most, and no one in the governor's mansion could do it better. Get past her and shout, "Admiral, I'm ready." I have been disappointed many times before, especially when I went to a hot spring hotel. It was a pity that I didn't have the opportunity to take pictures of so many beautiful scenery. From now on, every time you go out, remember to bring your camera and try not to leave any regrets. This time is certainly no exception. When I come here to look for someone in the morning, of course I won't take my luggage with me, so I'll just go down the mountain to get it. Sugu fiddled with the camera and glanced at the lens, making sure not to scratch it, otherwise he would definitely receive many looks from Leipzig, which would last for a long time. He raised the camera and pointed it at the cute little Changchun. Changchun finished filming, and it was Suifeng's turn. She just stood next to the fox statue and made scissor hands. "Eggplant!" Suifeng shouted, a smile blooming. Fubuki stood nearby. She was a little curious, why is it called eggplant? I don't know. Changchun shook his head. Although her photography skills are not as good as those of Leipzig, let alone Kirov, she is a professional photographer, and the photos she took are now hung in the office of the town hall, where guests can see them immediately when they come to the town hall. There is no other way. This is the first time I saw a photo of myself that made me look so handsome. I was so handsome. Not as good as above, but better than below. The level is still a little bit better. Sugu looked at the camera and thought that he had got another photo of a cute little loli. When he heard Fubuki's question, he explained, because when you talk about eggplant, you seem to be smiling, so you don't have to smile deliberately. I like to talk about Tianqi. Changchun smiled, with white teeth. Sugu saw Changchun walking next to him. He put his hand on Changchun's head and ruffled the girl's long hair. "I prefer Leng Swan Ling." Changchun blinked, confused, but Sugu didn't explain much. Speaking of it, whether it's eggplant or Tianqi, many habits in the guard's mansion still start with him. Others are just following the rules. After all, marry a chicken and follow a chicken, marry a dog and follow a dog. Sugu glanced at Fuzang, who was sitting quietly with Bai Shui, and quietly took a picture of her, thinking that it would be better if she wore a witch costume. Seeing Fubuki approaching her, but it was not a digital camera. She could see the photo immediately after taking the photo. Her eyes were full of curiosity. It was not a point-and-shoot camera, but she still wanted to operate it. Does Fubuki know how to use it? Won't. Well, the opportunity has come and you can show off again. Sugu explained the operation process, matters that must be paid attention to, and the working principle by the way, which was extended to movies, and he also looked forward to the bright future. Until Fubuki showed an expression like "the Admiral is so awesome," he smiled and said, "Fubuki, do you want to give it a try? Is it really possible?" "It doesn't matter," Sugu said, "there are still a lot of films anyway." Fubuki took the camera and fiddled with it. "Shirayuki, smile. Forget about taking secret photos." Shirayuki didn't want to take pictures of Fubuki and ignored him at all. He even turned his head and looked at the only well in the shrine. Fubuki had no choice but to turn to Changchun. The girl didn't mind at all, she struck a pose at that time. Click. After taking a photo, Fubuki suddenly became excited, as if she had gotten a new toy. She jumped up to Sugu and said, "Admiral, let me take a photo for you." Okay. Sugu sat on the stone slab. He was still very relaxed and struck a handsome pose. After thinking about it for a while, he felt that he was not very satisfied. He stretched out his hand to greet Changchun and Suifeng, and gently patted the stone slabs on both sides of him, motioning for them to come over and sit down. Suifeng was a little shy. Changchun was an admiral, so she sat down next to him and hugged his waist. After taking several photos, Fubuki said, "I also want to take one with the admiral." "Well, I didn't have any photos left before. It turns out that you are just game characters, with data of 0 and 1. There are no photos, but a few screenshots." Sugu thought to himself, and then remembered that when he came to this world, the things he had before were still there, whether it was keys, money, bank cards, or mobile phones, but the mobile phones were no longer usable due to being soaked in water for a long time. At that time, he showed Xiaozai, now they are all thrown into a small iron box, and I occasionally take them out to recall them. I'll do it, Changchun raised her hand. She knew how to use a camera and was not just talking nonsense. The girl is not like many people in the guardhouse who don't know how to do it and don't learn it. She just needs to live her life peacefully every day. Let Sugule's mentality be like that of an old man. Buying her a smartphone is not necessary, just saying that she has an old man's phone is enough. Even if you are willing to teach, you just don't want to give it a try. Chui Shui handed the camera to Changchun, then brushed her bangs and sat next to Sugu, quietly making a scissor hand gesture behind his head. "I used to complain about the admiral, but I really don't have much memory of it, other than that it was pretty bad. He didn't say a word all day long, giving orders here and there, and that was it. Although there are not many admirals who usually come to the shrine, they are not few. It seems that most of them are people with evil intentions towards everyone, and few of them actually come to pray. Every time I see them bringing their ship girls with them, I wonder what it would be like if my admiral came back. Even if he doesn't want to, he must play a good prank. Well, now that the admiral is back, it feels really good to be by his side." Seeing her sister being funny, Bai Shui lowered her head. Lively sisters are still popular. Fuzu turned her head to look at Bai Shui. She smiled and joked, "Are you jealous?" The morning passed quickly. At noon, Sugu saw the dazzling array of dishes on the dining table. He saw Bai Shui wearing an apron and thought of Yujin. Every time she met that guy, she would show off her young wife Bai Suihao, who was gentle, virtuous, and had unparalleled cooking skills. She was capable of doing all kinds of housework and was full of wifely power without hiding her pride at all. Now that I understand it, it's really great. Well, to say something inappropriate, I insist that Yuxian will not waver for 100 years. Just in time, it's really rich. Suddenly a voice rang, are there any guests? Fuzu looked over, and she naturally recognized him. Ise, and Hinata, Shakia, what are you hiding behind? It's been a long time. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 837. All that needs to be said is said and lunch is finished. Sugu stood by the window and looked at the chirping birds outside. Until the birds flew away, he glanced at Ise and Hinata. If it were still a game, to be honest, Ise and Hinata really couldn't accept it. They were not strong enough. Their firepower, armor, speed, and skills had no merit at all. None of them stood out. They were completely useless, at least until they gave up on themselves. That was the case before. As for the future, I dare not say anything. As the only aviation battleship, who knows whether it will turn around? It's hard to love Tachi. She doesn't have big breasts and long legs, like Fuzu and Helena. She's not even cute, like Kotaku. Of course, these are all issues of painting style. Some people like it and some don't. No one can satisfy everyone, unless it is RMB. Games are no better than reality. The gap between the 2 dimensions and the 3 dimensions is really too big. Even if Anthony, Blaine, and Cassin Yang are so magical, they are still cute. Thinking about my former friend Mu Chang, I really envy him for being so lucky. In short, Ise and Hinata are still very beautiful. Since they are wearing Maiko uniforms, there are not so many colorful choices for Maiko uniforms, so they are not too tacky. The only thing that makes people feel difficult is that it doesn't matter if they have short hair, long straight hair, wavy hair, or a ponytail, everything is fine, so why do they have to wear such a strange hairstyle? Sugu looked at Shakia again. She was talking to Fubuki. He saw Changchun unfurling his ship uniform with a proud look on his face. He listened to Changchun explain how powerful the missile was. No matter what enemy he was, he could defeat it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dissuade him. Changchun should not launch missile demonstrations at the shrine. Everyone believes that missiles are very powerful. No matter what enemy they are, they will be destroyed by the missiles. Don't waste ammunition. What are you thinking about, Admiral? In the end, he did not put the good married guard that Fubuki gave him back, but put it away. Now he puts it in his pocket, hoping for the blessing of the gods. Fuzu was wearing a sleeveless white dress. Since she was in the room, she only wore a pair of slippers. She put her hands behind her back and saw her admiral's face full of worry. Following his line of sight, even though Changchun was a fishery officer and Fubuki and Shikinami were Japanese, they didn't quarrel and seemed to be enjoying themselves, so there was obviously no need to worry. I really don't understand what went wrong. It's nothing. Sugu looked away. He thought for a while and asked, Fuzang will protect me, right? Of course. Fuzu nodded. Although there was no swearing and the answer sounded casual, the safety of the admiral's life was more important than anything else, and he didn't care even if he sacrificed himself. Fuzu is still very reliable, a gentle big sister, and doesn't have a big mouth problem. If you were facing the gossipy high school senior sisters, or the likes of York City, no matter what happened, if you knew about it in the morning, and it would be spread throughout the town hall in the afternoon, you would never dare to speak. Advisor Fuzu, Fubo can't really be a Yandere, right? Destroyer Shakia, you can tell from the lines in the game that the girl is undoubtedly a Yandere. It doesn't matter whether it's a coincidence or anything else, the game is very similar to reality, 9 times out of 10. Now here, Shivo is one of the 2 most famous Yanderes along with Ying Rui, and everyone knows about it. After all, I finally became an admiral, so I couldn't leave at any time. When she was first fished out, she was just a weak little loli, but she quickly grew up and liked to say things that would make people taste different flavors if they think a little more. Among so many literary creations, as long as Shikino appears, there is no one who is not Yandere. There is even a novel that claims to be adapted from a true story. Of course, this is open to question. There is only word of mouth and no written records. Generally speaking, the gendarmerie will have files. Anyway, the ending of the story is that Shikiya cut off the hero's head, held it in his arms, and cried. Yandere, Fuzang didn't quite understand. After all, she usually didn't like to read comics and rarely read novels. If she did read occasionally, she wouldn't read light novels, but orthodox novels. Sugu also watched people prepare food. Normally he wouldn't say words like Dianbo, Tsundere, Yandere, wordless, etc. in front of her. This time he just forgot. What do you mean? I don't know how to tell you, Sugu tried to explain, but for a while he really didn't know how to explain. After thinking about it, regardless of whether Fubo is a Yandere or not, it is already like this anyway. It is a blessing, not a curse, but it is a curse that cannot be avoided. He crossed his arms and decided not to tell Fuzu, and said casually, I found that Shikinami is more like a Maiko than the others. Fuzu didn't pursue the question of Yandere. She asked, why? Maiko must have black hair after all, Sugu said, long, straight black hair. Shikiya clearly has brown hair. Fuzu was puzzled, thinking that the admiral must have been dazzled. Sugu turned his head little by little to look at Fuzang, but he said nothing. The purple in boys' eyes is divided into purple, plum purple, dark purple, eggplant purple, grape purple, lavender, and lavender. Therefore, men and women are two different species, and there is nothing wrong with them. Fuzu hesitated a little. It should be brown, I'm not mistaken. Sugu waved his hands non-committally. This was just a trivial matter. There was no need to worry about it. The problem was not here. He thought about it again and realized that he shouldn't be so scared. In the game, if you leave it alone in the cabin, you are ignoring it, and dismantling equipment is a heinous crime, so it's better to treat Shikiya by yourself. Since I got it very early, it can be modified, and I like the vertical painting better. Of course, after the modification, I still have to level up well. I was also given a lot of equipment, and I take it out for fun from time to time. Although it is not as good as Fletcher, Lawfight, and Utopia, it is much better than Fubuki and Shirayuki. In this way, the only problem was with her sister, the destroyer Ayanami. During the Valkyrie event, she promised that whoever killed the deep-sea turpits would get the ring, but in the end the ring was given to Bismarck. Although we had a relationship that we didn't like well enough at the time, we actually didn't have any thoughts about getting married. Even though he was nicknamed Ling Zhanxian, in the final analysis it was just a destroyer. As a member of the big ship and artillery party, how could he be willing to give him a ring? Washington, Richelieu, Raiders, Euxian, Dumplings, there are so many people. If you gave them before, you don't need to worry about it now. Admiral, what are you looking at? Originally, he had been thinking about the problem and didn't pay attention to anything. Suddenly he heard a sound and Sugu reacted. When he saw Shikiya approaching, he responded quickly, still feeling frightened. Fubuki has been saying good things about the admiral just now. Fubuwin went quietly, his right hand resting on his left arm. Really, red flowers need green leaves to set off, and happiness actually comes from comparison. A prodigal son can never be replaced by gold. A bad guy only needs to do one good thing and everyone will remember his good deeds. Sugu thought of Bumblebee. She was a good example. It seemed that Fubuki was the same. He really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All you need to do is send someone over. The admiral actually came over in person. Some people can't speak, like Tsundere, who obviously have good intentions and buy snacks to share with others, but insist on saying that they don't like it before giving you some. Some people smile knowingly and know how to be grateful. Some people might even dislike it and give it to me only if they don't want to eat it, so that their good intentions end up doing bad things. Sugu would not make such a mistake. He said, I left without permission before, but now I'm back. I hope everyone can return to the town hall. There is nothing unavoidable. Of course, you have to come here in person, otherwise it would be too insincere. Thank you, Admiral, the garrison is so far away from here. It's not hard work. It only takes a few days to get there by boat from the tutelage. Even with Yukikaze, we didn't encounter any problems, such as Yamato's revenge from the deep sea. After all, the deep sea flagship had the wisdom to break off her horns, take off her clothes, and take photos. It can be said that she has a deep hatred that will be remembered for 18 lifetimes. It seems that even the ordinary deep sea ship girls did not appear, and the cruise ship did not stop all the way. There was no need to deliberately act miserable. Sugu looked at Changchun not far away and just wanted to hit her on the head. This guy was the only one who kept playing pranks and never stopped. Sugu suddenly noticed that Shivo was looking at him steadily. Not to mention that his spine felt chilly, it was so exaggerated, but he was still a little worried. What are Shivo looking at? Is there anything strange about him? There's nothing strange about it, Chikia said, I just want to take a good look at Admiral Kun and don't forget it in the future. There was no need for Fubo to speak. Sugu's face was full of seriousness. He could only raise one hand and swear that if he violated the agreement, the sky would strike like lightning. I won't leave. I will never leave. Even if I kill you, I won't leave. I believe the Admiral will not leave. We have made an agreement and have signed a contract, Fubuki interjected from the side. If the Admiral really wants to leave, what's the use of the contract? Of course Fubuki knew this. She patted her chest. It doesn't matter, I will hold him and won't let him go. Ha ha ha, it can't be that easy. Fubo's voice was faint. Easy, very easy. Sugu looked at Chikia and laughed dryly. If this was a comic, the girl must be like this, her eyes all turned black, without pupils, or the upper half of her face was completely disappeared into the shadows. The Prince of Wales said the dog leash, not believing she would do that. Lexington said Formalin, but he didn't believe it, there was still a slight possibility. No matter what, I don't want another hatchet. The Admiral seems to be afraid of me. Chikia touched his face. Is my face scary? No, haha. No way. It's not scary at all. Sugu comforted himself. This was not a coward. How could a big man be afraid of a little girl? But he couldn't find any reason to deceive himself for a while. He thought about it for a while. Anyway, this topic seemed a bit dangerous, so it would be wise to quickly divert it. How about Shikinami going to school? Shikinami said softly, Shirayuki is a goddess, Fubuki is lively and cute, she is the most popular, and I am inconspicuous. How could it be? It was time to show off his true flattery skills. Sugu said, Shikia is so beautiful. Admiral Kun is really a talker. Shikia said, I'm not talking nonsense. Sugu suddenly didn't dare to say anything more. Fubuki joked, I'm neither tall nor short, and my grades are neither good nor bad. I've always been average and stable. I haven't joined a club, no, I'm a member of the home club. I participated in the telekinetic club, but I can't use the power of the ship girl. So my grades are just average, not dazzling, but not holding me back. I have never been a class committee member, well, an extra mention, I have been a class president. I have a few friends, not many. My personality is average, and I have never had anyone. And quarreling, but I won't be bullied. This has been the case historically, with no sense of existence at all. There is no sense of presence in the game, the strength is not strong enough, the white background and no protection from damage, the vertical painting is not exquisite enough, and it is easy to obtain. Unlike many ships, even if they are illustrated ships, they can be displayed because they are rare enough. However, after the transformation, the situation improved a lot, and the vertical painting suddenly became beautiful, just like the character in a certain anime, and she was called Passerby Ship Girl. It was just right. Sugu said expressionlessly, "Shikinami, is your other name Kato Megami?" "Tachibana sa, my name is Tachibana sa," Shikiya said. "I wanted to take this name, Kato-ke, or something like that. You have told me several times before. Although I don't know who she is, in the end still not. Although everyone is at the shrine, my sister is working as a reporter now. She became a reporter just because you always mentioned reporters before. She will be very happy when Admiral Kun is back. What a coincidence. You must not know that your sister Daifeng wrote a book. Lingbo is the prototype of the protagonist, who happens to be a war correspondent. In fact, Daifeng wrote that Lingbo was a war correspondent for the same reason as Lingbo, because I often mention it." Sugu had already heard from Chui Shui that Lingbo had gone to work as a reporter and brought over several newspapers with news she had interviewed. "Nowadays, I often run around outside, and it is very rare that I return to the shrine once. Every time I come back, I bring many gifts and various specialties to everyone." Did Sister Daifeng become a writer? Fubuki was quite excited. Sugu waved his hand, "Not a writer, but a talented beautiful girl writer, the kind who is very famous. She tells her name when she goes out and fans ask for autographs." Sister Daifeng Chui Shui unexpectedly twisted. "Did she use me as a prototype to write a novel?" "No. I'm disappointed." After saying that, Chui Shui was just a little unhappy, but suddenly she became excited again. What kind of books has Sister Daifeng written?" Sugu reported the names of several books, and Chui Shui thought for a while. "I read it in a bookstore, but I heard it was a tragedy, so I didn't borrow it. I don't like reading tragedies. One of my classmates liked it very much and told me about the plot every day." "I've seen it," Shikinami said suddenly. Sugu remembered the plot of that book. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 838. After dinner, everyone sat in the courtyard and chatted for a while. I ate watermelon, it was super sweet. It was getting late into the night and I was ready to go to bed. Now that we have come to the shrine, there is no reason to go down the mountain and stay in a hotel. The shrine has enough rooms, but not enough beds. But this is easy to solve. Just put a quilt on the solid wood floor to make the bed. Then put it aside, and the quilt folded into squares is used to cover it. Although it is already past September, it can be said that autumn has officially entered. Autumn tigers peel their skins in autumn. The weather cannot cool down so easily. It is still very hot these days. But the shrine is inside a mountain, so it's fine during the day. But at night, forget about using a fan. If you don't cover yourself with a quilt, you might wake up from the cold in the middle of the night. "Admiral, I turned off the lights." "Turn out the lights." Sugu slept under the quilt and didn't feel hot at all. This reminded him of his uncle's house in the village where he lived when he was a child, and he had to be covered with quilts at night. Ordinarily they should be the same, but it just feels like the sun breaks earlier and I wake up very early. It's just that when I grew up, I didn't want to go to junior high school anymore, but I still missed it very much. Thinking like this, he suddenly felt something pressing on him. Of course it wasn't a ghost pressing down on the bed. Sugu opened his eyes and saw Chang Chun crawling on top of him in the faint moonlight, looking at him with bright eyes. "Chang Chun, you don't want to sleep with Chuixu and the others. If you have to share a room with me, it doesn't matter, just sleep, can't you be more honest? I am a fishery officer, they are Japanese, and we are enemies. How can we sleep together? What if we are killed at night, Changchun said, and if Sister Yuxian finds out, she will scold me to death. Of course Sugu didn't believe it. He curled his lips and thought, you are too good at breaking up. Who is playing so happily and intimately with Cui Shui? Besides, Yuxian doesn't have so much leisure time to care about this or that. After all, no matter who is in the guardhouse, they are sisters. He knows it's just because Changchun Admiral Controller, doesn't hate him, it's better to say he really likes this character. Changchun hugged Sugu whole and pressed her face against the quilt. Of course she was not attacking at night. That was Saratoga's favorite thing. The girl didn't have such a consciousness yet. Admiral, I can't sleep. Tell me a story bar. Sugu closed his eyes, turned his head away, and said in disgust, go away, I won't say anything, I'm going to bed, I'm so tired. Talk, 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 talk. Changchun lay on Sugu's body and muttered, how could she give up so easily, and finally said with a smile, Admiral, if you don't tell me, I will bite your ear. I bit it, really bit it? Little goblin, please spare me. Sugu wanted to shrink back under the quilt, but was suppressed by Changchun and couldn't do it at all. In the end, he had no choice but to say, okay, let me tell you a story, and then go to sleep. Let me think about it. No, you know what to say. Well, don't you usually like to ask Yuxian to make you midnight snacks? Foodie Changchun nodded, yes. Sugu thought about it carefully, and decided to use the name of a familiar person in order to achieve the effect. This is a true story. Then I have a classmate, his name is Lu Jianju, I don't know if you know him, he came to guard several times. Then his shipmate was the USS Borg, a light aircraft carrier. One night, he saw the light in the kitchen downstairs was on, and suddenly heard Borg shouting, Admiral, I made you a midnight snack. Come and eat. Borg shouted several times. He was just about to go downstairs when a hand grabbed his wrist. He turned around and saw Borg behind him. It was strange, right? The voice clearly came from downstairs. It came from the kitchen. Why was there someone behind him? So he asked, why are you here? Didn't you ask me to have supper? Borg shushed, and she said, I heard it too. Why are there two Borgs? Sugu asked back, why do you think it is? Ghost. Changchun took a breath of cold air, scaring himself. Don't ask me, I don't know either. Sugu couldn't even remember when he saw this story. It seemed to be a comic. Anyway, he couldn't remember the ending. Anyway, it still felt a little scary, so I adapted it a bit and said, okay, I'm done. Come down. Inexplicable story. Changchun left Sugu's body, and then slapped him hard, but there was no force at all on the quilt. Sugu continued to sleep. He thought of Sadako. He didn't know where he learned it. It was said that it was just a computer virus, which slightly ruined his outlook on life. After the founding of the People's Republic of China, it was not allowed to become a sperm, so any domestic ghost movies are always made by people who are doing evil things, or they are simply crazy. After a while, Changchun's voice trembled, Admiral, can we sleep together? Not good. Sugu was of course duplicitous, but in fact, he wanted it more deeply. A beautiful, cute, and bright girl, there is no reason to refuse. But I can't make a mistake. Men are all beasts, so I can only refuse. Besides, I didn't tell ghost stories just because, well, I learned another trick, and I will tell it to Xiao Zai and Xiao Luo next time. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. Changchun chose to lift Sugu's quilt directly and got in. Fubuki or Shikinami, which one of you joined the town hall first? They were already asleep here, the lights in the room here were still on, and no one was sleeping yet. Fubuki was wearing white cotton pajamas, sitting cross-legged on the bed, holding her white feet with both hands, and shaking her body. She only remembered that she joined the garrison very late, many people had grown up, and there were enough destroyers, so she was not taken seriously. Only Swifeng had already lied down, now huddled under the quilt, grabbing the edge of the quilt with both hands, revealing one head and interjecting, "I will join the garrison at the latest." Fubuki became amused. The admiral wanted to salvage Sister Mutsu, and then you showed up. That's not right. It wasn't because the person involved didn't remember clearly, Yukikaze explained. When I joined the town hall, Sister Mutsu had already arrived at the town hall. Isn't it Mutsune? Fubuki thought for a moment, that must be King Kong. Anyway, I remember that you fished it out easily. I heard that the admiral was shocked. Swifeng still thought about the obvious problem, we don't have King Kong in the garrison. Yes, there is no King Kong. Our admiral is King Kong. He has always wanted it, but no, it is not that easy to salvage it. Fubuki laughed, and then said, speaking of which, I remember there was a King Kong ship before. At the shrine, she has long golden wavy hair. She is really beautiful. Well, it is just too noisy and noisy. Touch here and there to see. She has many hands and feet, which is more troublesome than Changchun. I heard that in which ship girl branch works for you. You are such an adult, but you still act like a child. Bai Shui was still flipping through the book, so she put it down. You have the nerve to accuse others of making trouble, and so do you. Where did I make such a fuss? Fubuki was unhappy and retorted at that time. He even said bad things about his sister when he wanted to knock her down. But after thinking about it, if I did that, wouldn't it be just because I was making trouble, so I finally gave up. Anyway, she won't make trouble. Chui Shui looked at the wall. On the other side of the wall, the admiral and Changchun were together. I remember that during that period, the admiral worked very hard, and the attack missions of the garrison never stopped. That's nothing. Shikinami lowered his head. Fubuki joined the garrison, so the Valkyrie event is over. Yes, Fubuki replied. What a blessing. Fubuki still knows a little bit. It is said that that period was the darkest day for the destroyer of the town. It seems that because the admiral salvaged the submarine U-81, he tried every means to get U-47, so he kept arranging everyone to attack day and night. In the end, everyone entered the canal room. There wasn't enough, so we had to wait in line, and in the end it didn't come out. I don't want to think about that period of time, but I can't forget it no matter what. However, Shikiya is not a complaining character, so he just lowered his head. Ayanamai, yes, it must have happened at that time. Let's agree, whoever sank the deep-sea Tirpitz will get the ring, but in the end it was given to Bismarck. When I talked about Ayanamai today, I saw that the admiral felt guilty. But never mention the ring. Others are afraid of Shikinami, but Fubuki is not. Don't you mention Shikinami and ask for justice for your sister. I won't get married. Admiral Kun will never get married. Shikiya smiled horribly. The admiral married Sister Helena because he always harassed her in the past. Swifeng was the only one here who knew about the situation in the garrison, so it's possible. Chui Shui was obviously at the age where if you know lust, you will admire Shaoi, and she knew how to compare. She put her hands on her chest. Admiral, I don't know him yet, but he just likes him, Helena, there is something like it's like a monster, Ayanamai can't compare to it. Really, it doesn't count, it's bad enough. Fubuki is now saying it's bad again. Shikinami said, he keeps saying good things about Admiral Kun all day long. I mean he was bad, but only in the past. Fubuki said, now he is very good. Fubuki was drunk by the admiral, so protect him. Shikiya's voice was very soft. He returned to the shrine at noon and found that the admiral was back. It was already evening and they had spent half a day together. The admiral's change was visible to his eyes. It was undeniable that he had changed a lot, but Fubuki's performance was probably too much. What happened? Before I came back with Ise and Hinata-san. Nothing happened. Fubuki picked up the pillow, hugged it, and rolled on the bed. I came here in the morning and he was wearing a fox mask. It was so weird. I thought he was a fox fairy, so I threw him a handful of salt. The salt got into my eyes. I kept rubbing my eyes and kept crying. My eyes were red. Even so, I was actually lifeless. They stayed in the county for one day and came to our shrine the next day. We went down the mountain together to pick up our luggage and buy some food. They brought their cameras, and Changchun shouted to take pictures, and then they took pictures inside the shrine. I looked at the camera, and he asked me if I knew it. When I said no, he taught me. He taught me a lot, not only how to use the camera, but also how to shoot the movie. Fubuki's face was full of smiles. Bai Shui can't bear to take a picture of me. I took pictures of him. Fubuki chuckled, he just likes to be funny. He's obviously not handsome at all. Well, he's still a little handsome. He's always doing some cool poses, holding a branch as a sword. He drew his sword and slashed like a sword master. Standing by the tree and pretending to be a ninja, it didn't look like a ninja at all. He also asked me if I had on Myoji's clothes, but I said no, and said that our shrine is not authentic. What a fool. Later, Bai Shui and Sister Fuzang went to cook. He bragged to me, saying how delicious the food he cooked was, and how he learned from Yuxian. He talked a lot but didn't do it, because he was so talkative. I didn't know he was so good at cooking. That's it, it must be terrible, you have to laugh at him. And then you guys came back before you even started eating. Nothing. Shakia smiled. Fubuki looked at the ceiling with longing in her eyes. In the past, she saw an admiral bringing a kanji to the shrine. They prayed together, bought a royal guard, and then wrote Emma. It was a destroyer, only a little tall, and the writing was crooked. I couldn't write many words, and I could only draw circles and crosses. So the admiral grabbed her hand and taught her how to write on the Emma. When I stood nearby and saw this scene, I was really envious. I was really envious when I saw parents with their children in the county town, and the father was tearing off the wrapping paper of the popsicles for the children. It's not that I envy having food to eat. Although not many people come to the shrine, everyone is not short of money and can eat whatever they want. As a ship girl without parents, the admiral is the only person close to her, but she has never had such an experience. Shikinami looked at Fubuki. Fubuki is really easy to satisfy. That's enough. Fubuki hugged the pillow tightly and curled up into a ball, thinking that she was not greedy, and she really wasn't greedy. There is no need for a beautiful house or a villa, just an ordinary place for people to live in is enough. There is no need for beautiful clothes or skirts. For example, children from rich families in school change one set of clothes every day without duplication. Only 2 sets can be changed. You don't need delicious food, you don't need matsutake mushrooms, snowflake wagyu, yuberry melon, or tuna. Just rice and miso soup. It doesn't matter if you only have plum rice balls. It doesn't matter what kind of concerts, cabaret shows, or amusement parks, as long as just take a walk together. It must be possible. Swafeng had great confidence in Sugu and kept enlightening and comforting himself. I hope so, Fubuki thought to himself. Emma had been hoping that the admiral would come back for many years. The fact that the admiral didn't come until today was definitely not due to the blessings of the gods, but he still thanked the gods. I'll put up another one tomorrow. I hope the admiral can always be with you. The night passed quickly. Songxiang County. The next day, Sugu decided to go find Lingbo. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-de-rong Yan. Chapter 839. Tanaka-kun, if you encounter any trouble in the future, don't be polite, just ask me. A male admiral in his 30s, named Hyde Sakurada, patted the shoulder of the new admiral who was standing next to him and looked like he had just graduated from the academy in his early 20s. Without waiting for the new admiral to thank him, he waved and left. I have something else to do, so that's it for today. The perfect admiral. Thinking like this, the new admiral looked at the back of the man who had walked away, showing a trace of longing. As an admiral, let alone Kakiao Ling longs in, even though he has just graduated, it is not enough for others to say good things. I just had a garrison and was responsible for a sea area. I was unlucky. I encountered powerful deep-sea battleships twice and relied on their support. Dealing with the government was bumpy, but I relied on the other party to teach me many methods. Inside the corridor. Then that's it, I'll leave first. Various issues were discussed for a long time, for several hours. Sakurada Hyde stood at the door of the office, looking at the governor sitting at the coffee table, who had gone through the dark ages and had gray hair on his temples, and showed a hint of relief, as well as the minister of Songxiang County who used to look cold and even mean. He smiled, bowed, and closed the office door. Hello, Admiral Sakurada, I am a reporter from Tokai Weekly. I would like to interview you today. Do you have time? The hard military boot stepped on the floor, making a tap-tat-tat sound. Just when he walked out of the corridor, the sun shone on him, and Sakurada Hyde saw a girl. She is not tall, has neat short hair, and looks young. Even so, he didn't dare to underestimate him because he recognized the other party. It was the destroyer Ayanami. Her training level is quite high, even the strongest ship girl in her own garrison cannot compare with her. She is well informed and can clearly explain the weaknesses of various types of deep-sea ship girls. I heard that she has even seen the deep-sea turpits. I don't understand why I am not in the combat team but working as a reporter in the propaganda department. No problem, Sakurada Hyde replied. He doesn't like to be in the limelight, but the other party is not a reporter from a third-rate newspaper. He can just turn him away casually. He still needs to take it seriously. Soon after, in the reception room, Sakurada Hyde sat upright without any stage fright. Ayanami took a pen and wrote on the notepad, Admiral Sakurada, I heard that it has been 10 years since you graduated from the Kawahide Naval Academy, especially after you have been on the front line for 5 years. I don't know how many deep-sea ship girls you have eliminated. With more than 20 ship girls under his command, the capital ship can form a 6-man regular formation, which is simply the European admiral among European admirals. But even so, he is never arrogant and willing to help others, and the next governor has already been selected. The admiral and the ship girl have a bond beyond imagination. They can be said to be one individual. Sugar-coated bullets or silver bullet offensives by high-ranking officials and generous officials are of no use at all. In general, there are only a few ways to weaken the power of a general in the army, such as disrupting the organization and reorganizing new troops to weaken the influence, being promoted openly and secretly, being transferred to other troops, etc. There is no one that can be used. A ship girl forms an army by herself, and no one can command it except her own admiral, so it can be said to be a private army. A governor is obviously the superior of an admiral, but it is not that easy to command admirals who can be said to be warlords in a sense. Therefore, a governor is not just a matter of giving an order to the ship's headquarters. They often need to have their own powerful garrison, and they also need to be very charismatic, so that an admiral can obey you. Of course, no matter what, the governor's order is still useful in terms of coercion, but the admiral can completely slack off. After all, it is not that easy to replace an admiral. African admirals are just that. There are not many European admirals in the world who can suppress an entire sea area. In short, it is something that no one wants to get to this point. Sakurada Hyde frowned, remembering what happened in the office. In fact, it is not so much discussing the problem together. The problem is put out and it is all done by myself. It is more like testing myself to be better. I have worked very hard, and I don't know if the answer is satisfactory. I don't know when there were rumors that our governor of Donghai is about to retire, but I just saw him and he is in good health. Even if the governor resigns, who will? There is no predetermined decision to serve as governor. It must be nominated by the ship girl headquarters, and then voted by all the admirals of the East China Sea. I think you can definitely become the governor. I accept your good advice. With so many ship girls, it's not an exaggeration to say that he is the European emperor. Do you have any tips for construction or salvage? Sakurada Hyde crossed his fingers and held his chin. It has a little bit to do with having better luck, but the main thing is construction. More construction, no matter how small the chance is, as long as the number of times is enough. The same is true for salvage. Probably more. Be sincere. You are sincere. When a ship girl feels your sincerity, she will choose to join the garrison. Ayanami's eyes narrowed, like a poisonous snake ready to attack, which was a bit scary, but I heard some admirals say, well, Admiral Sakurada is a hypocrite. His beauty is corrupted, but he does one thing in front of his face and another behind his back. It doesn't matter if I say to my face, if you have any problems, just come to me, but in fact, you call me a fool behind your back, and the good-for-nothing African admiral is not willing to help at all. A gentleman is not a gentleman, by his heart or by his deeds. Hyde Sakurada looked into Ayanami's sharp eyes and said bluntly, I think the definition of a hypocrite is one who behaves one way on the surface and another secretly, instead of examining what is going on in his heart. What did you think or say? What you do is the key. Complain in private. Anyone can do it, doesn't it mean anything? Condor, the light aircraft carrier Condor originally served on the southern island of Kyushu. She has joined your garrison, right? Ayanami adjusted her glasses, which were actually just plain glasses, in order to make her appearance look mature. I heard that you once said that you would not pursue her and give your colleagues a chance. After all, there are still so many garrison buildings, only destroyers and light cruisers. Isn't this one thing in front of her and another behind her back? The man is unmarried and the woman is unmarried. No, the matter of the admiral fishing the boat, the emotional matter, well, the Condor is a person with an independent personality, not a weapon or something that can be given or not. Should I give it or not? Sakurada Shiu looked around and suddenly felt a little guilty. He hesitated for a while and couldn't explain clearly. Okay, let's move on to the next question. I heard that you have 5 wedding ships. The admiral does not stipulate monogamy, so no matter how many ship girls we marry, it doesn't matter. Because we have feelings, we got married. Sakurada Hyde laughed. You don't think I force the ship girls, do you? Even the admiral, you can't force a ship girl to do something she doesn't like. Even if it's just a destroyer or a little girl, in front of them, our admiral can be said to be powerless and weak. At the admiral's party in July, I heard that you were drunk and made arrogant remarks. As an admiral, you have destroyed many deep-sea ship girls and protected the lives and property of many people. Ayanami's expression turned cold, and it is sown in the bodies of many ship girls. So can you think so? You have no feelings for the ship girls at all, you just want to push them down. Sakurada Hyde's face became panicked. He slapped the table and stood up, pointing with his hands. Slander, shameful slander, I have never said this. I am very good to my ship girl, I have never been treated badly in the slightest. My room is worse than theirs. In short, my food and clothing are worse than theirs. I buy them gifts every time I go on a business trip. This is not a question of whether you are good to them or not. Ayanamai took the pen and turned it around. She almost wanted to spit on it. All the admirals were like this. We also heard that you like to say this in the town guard mansion: whoever gets the MVP gets the ring. But your rings are only given to those beautiful, good-looking, and powerful ship girls, never to destroyers. Do you not keep your word? I'm not a Lolita fan, and I want to join the military police, Hideyoshi Sakurada said solemnly. Although the would you like some rabbit today, society is quite large and has countless members, not every admiral is a member. To be honest, most admirals still have big ships, big guns, and big-breasted and long-legged gangsters, but there is nothing they can do about it. Of course, there are many people who like big breasts and long legs, as well as Lolita and young girls. Unfortunately, most light cruisers are not good enough. Next question. Ayanamai stared at Sakurada Shiu, and she decided that she would tear off all the glamorous disguises of the guy in front of her. As the sun sets, inside the building of the Songxiang County Propaganda Department, the editor-in-chief of Tokai Weekly, the heavy cruiser Myoko, held the teacup and took a sip. Ayanamai, how about interviewing Admiral Sakurada? Ayanamai brushed her bangs. There is no such thing as a good thing in a man. Miao Gao was stunned for a moment. No problem, Ayanamai responded as she came to her senses. Seriously, Ayanamai, you must have been hurt by some man. Myoko crossed her arms and looked at Ayanamai. He usually works as a war reporter, traveling to dangerous battlefields and recording the events of major sea battles. After all, the level of training is very high, and one can generally ensure one's own safety, and will also participate in the battle when necessary. Another person is responsible for the propaganda department's interview with the admiral and the ship girl. But if the interviewee is a possible ungrateful admiral, every time he takes the initiative to take charge of the matter, and then scolds the other person in sharp writing in the newspaper, it seems that the other person must be ruined. Who would have thought that when I first joined the propaganda department, I looked immature and didn't understand anything. Everything today is all a result of hard work. Without considerable determination and awareness, you cannot do such a thing. So something must have happened in the past, otherwise how could a destroyer be like this? Ayanamai sat down next to her desk. September had just passed and she had forgotten about it. She tore off a calendar and plucked the thorns of the cactus lying next to her. No. Miao Gao was a little helpless. He had asked many times, but the other party was unwilling to tell. There was no way out. How about I introduce two admirals to you? I guarantee that they are gentlemen and not perverts. I told you, I have an admiral. So he hurt you. Myoko wasn't too clear about Ayanamai's situation, and he didn't want to tell her. People's hearts are fickle, so it's not uncommon for this situation to happen. The ship girl fell in love with a person, and after investing a lot of feelings, she found that she had misjudged the person, and she became discouraged from then on. Editor-in-chief, are you okay? Even though the other person was her immediate boss, Ayanamai was not afraid at all. She felt embarrassed. Otherwise, you can write this interview. Of course there is something going on. I still have a lot of news to deal with here, Miao Gao said quickly. She was just gossiping. Someone recently salvaged the shallow water heavy gunship Vina Moinen. It has never been seen before. It has the 254mm Bofors twin main gun, has a long range. It can be equipped on heavy cruisers, which is more powerful than the Kirov gun, which is amazing. There are also deep-sea warships that have appeared frequently in the waters near Suhu County recently. No one knows why, but an investigation team has passed by. Ayanamai responded without comment. Miao Gao looked at Ayanamai's lack of energy and did not continue talking. Myoko left. Ayanamai put her head in her hands and propped her elbows on the desk surface. She closed her eyes and rubbed her forehead. She thought of her admiral again and couldn't help but grit her teeth. What a bastard, a bastard, a bad guy. Every time I think of the Admiral, I think of Tirpitz, the promise, and the ring. Now that I think about it, I don't really care that much about the ring. Whether I have it or not, it doesn't matter at all. The main thing is that one said Ayanamai, you should get the ring, and the other said Ayanamai, the Admiral is such a bastard for giving your ring to Bismarck. I had forgotten about it, but people mentioned it every day. Sometimes I want to shout that I don't care at all, but no one believes me at all. Instead, they look at me with pity. Originally, the young man didn't know what it was like to be sad. It was all because of them that he had to care. Thinking so, she didn't care at all. Ayanamai couldn't help but touch her face. Because I have been running outside for a while, the sun outside is quite strong, and I am very concerned about it. My skin feels a little rougher and darker. I touched my collarbone again. I tried putting coins on it when I was alone before, and there was no problem. Finally, he touched his chest lightly with his palm and left quickly. Ha! It doesn't matter what your figure is like, everything has passed. The Admiral has been gone for so long, many years, and he probably won't come back again. The ring, or whatever it was meaningless. Ayanamai held the side of her face with one hand, looking at the sea in the distance, and pursed her lips. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 840. On the bus from Shiratori County to Songxiang County, Shikibo noticed that Sugu was looking at her. She curiously asked, Admiral, is there anything strange about me? Nothing, Sugu replied, his eyes retracted from Shikia's body. After leaving the shrine, the girl naturally no longer wore a Maiko costume. Now she wore a white sleeveless shirt, paired with a white skirt decorated with ruffles, and her long hair was tied into a ponytail. Obviously she couldn't be more young and beautiful, and it's not like an old lady wearing a sailor uniform would feel out of place, but she still cares a little, but she can't explain why. The asphalt road was quite flat, and driving on it was very smooth, so it didn't matter if I read a book. Bai Shui held the book in her hands and was quiet. Only Fubuki kept chattering. She was sitting on the row of seats in front of Sugu. She turned around, knelt on the seat and leaned on the back of the chair. Admiral, you will definitely be scared by her when you meet Ayanamai. One jump. Why? Sugu had already seen Lingbo's photos, including group photos and single photos. In that photo, she was sitting alone on the stone steps down the mountain from the shrine, with a torii gate above her head. Apart from her short hair, she looked pretty. It's not much different from Shikino, and so is the figure. Anyway, just be mentally prepared. Fubuki chuckled, made some gestures, and couldn't help but say, how should I put it, when I went to find her in the past, when she was working, well, she was wearing glasses and he wears a watch, a white shirt, trousers, and high heels. He looks so handsome and looks like an adult. Sugu imagined for a moment that there was a female reporter wearing a formal suit with her press card hanging on her chest, her legs crossed, and she was looking forward to it. You must not know that she can also drink. Fubuki remembered that Ayanamai took everyone to eat in a restaurant outside and ordered a bottle of wine. She is just full of energy, not a bad girl. Local law stipulates that minors are not allowed to drink alcohol or even purchase it. Although as a ship girl, the age line is quite blurred, in her mind she is definitely not old enough to drink. So in comparison, Ayanamai who can drink is really awesome. Shikiya stared at Sugu. There was only one reason why her sister became like this. Changchun sat next to Sugu, lying on the car window, mesmerized by the crisscrossing golden rice fields, rugged hillsides, and cedar forests. When she heard Fubuki's words, she turned around with disdain. What's so great about drinking? I can drink too. No one in the townhouse is my opponent. No matter it's the Prince of Wales or Gagabi. Who is Gagabi? Fubuki didn't react for a moment. She had already heard about it. Many new people had joined the garrison, such as York City, Lan, Cushing, etc., but the name had no impression. Chang Chun Ching laughed, eat and drink, and congratulate, Jia Jia Bei, you are a weak chicken. Are you still queasy? Sugu couldn't help but patted Chang Chun on the head. Even though she is Mao Zishuan, she is still a girl and she is not allowed to drink freely. But on important holidays, such as New Year's Eve, there is really no need to be so strict. He remembered again the embarrassing scene of the girl holding a glass of white wine to him and saying, "I'm done, you can do whatever you want," but there was only Coke in his glass. Later, I don't know who instigated him, but I found Kaga and finally defeated him easily. Chang Chun was a little dissatisfied and slapped Sugu's hand away. He couldn't find a girlfriend if he didn't drink. I admire Akagya. She is really good at eating. But Kaga is really not good at it. She might as well trust her. Fubuki knows trust, and she asked curiously, who is better, you or trust? Chang Chun proudly patted his chest, of course it's me. Sugu thought to himself that since he was essentially Japanese, becoming a Su-style girl meant that he had gained a drinker bonus. Chang Chun is completely different. She is essentially a little Mome. Although she has become a fisherman, she is not a weak woman like Yuxian, who is as gentle as a Jiangnan water town, but a northeastern female man. At least she is not weak in drinking. We set off in the morning and didn't arrive at Songxiang County headquarters until the afternoon. On the one hand, I didn't have a car, so I had to go to the station to wait for the bus. On the other hand, the distance between the two sides was still a bit far, and it took me a while to get there. It's really big walking on the tree-lined path in Songxiang County. Sugu looked around. Even though his own townhouse is not under the jurisdiction of the ship girl branch, as the admiral, he still knows that this is the largest ship girl branch in the entire East China Sea. Only in this way can he have the ability to start newspapers and have reporters. This way, Fubuki waved. She was familiar with the way and led everyone to a high-rise building quickly. They went up the stairs to the second floor and stopped at the big office a little ahead of the end of the corridor. She imagined what would happen to Ayanamai when she saw the admiral. It would be impossible to hug him. He might get a slap in the face or a glass of water poured on him, but the most likely thing was that he would be in a daze. However, she did not see a familiar figure. The desk by the window was empty. Sugu was walking behind and saw Chui Shui turning around in front. "What's wrong?" "Not here," Fubuki replied. Not long after, I learned from Ayanamai's colleagues that she had something to do. Since Fubuki and several others had been here more than once, especially Shikinami, she was Ayanamai's younger sister, so she still had some impression that Ayanamai's colleagues knew her, so she enthusiastically asked everyone to wait for a while, saying that Ayanamai had been out for a while, so she probably wouldn't be able to order anything. "How long will it take to come back?" Originally, Sugu planned to take everyone out for a walk and come back later, but finally sat down. For Sugu, waiting was no problem at all, because Ayanamai's colleagues brought a lot of newspapers and magazines. Time passed by minute by second. Chang Chun was the first to be unbearable, and the waiting was the most painful. The days seemed like years. She fell on Sugu's shoulder and said without a trace, "Admiral, what time is it?" Sugu opened his pocket watch and once again saw the photo of the small house inside. His smile made people feel warm. He remembered that Chang Chun saw it once and almost took the photo away from her, and never showed it to her again. He replied, "It's almost 3:30. It's been half an hour and you haven't come back yet," Chang Chun complained, but had no choice but to pick up the magazine again and turn to the last page to read the joke, but found it boring. Sugu continued to read the newspaper, looking at the news one by one, and suddenly burst into laughter when he saw a news headline. But looking around, even in the noisy Chang Chun, Chuixu was quiet and quiet. Many people were working. She quickly covered her mouth, leaving only her shoulders hunched, and it took a while to calm down. Finding Fuzang looking over curiously, Sugu thought that it had not been long since she returned to the town hall, so he asked, "Does Fuzang know the company?" "I don't know." Fuzang shook his head. "Her character is deaf to what is happening outside the window. I used to work in a hot spring hotel and had no idea what was going on outside. When I returned to the Tuttlari mansion, I only knew about the 1/3 acre land in the Tuttlari mansion. Even so, they knew Missouri and Hindenburg, but they had no interest in taking the initiative to learn about their past, unless someone accidentally brought it up while chatting. Enterprise, I know her very well. She is the boss of the Moonlight Department. She also has a propaganda department, with a newspaper every week and a magazine every month." Sugu said. "Then we defeated the flagships of Deep Sea are Yamato Deep Sea, Ryojo, and Ziwakaku. Speaking of which, Yamato Deep Sea's clothes were taken off by Bazai, and the horns on his body were also broken off. They are placed on the counter of my office with Ziwakaku Deep Sea's sickle. The money we can get from selling these two things may be enough for our townhouse to buy them. They are very valuable. Let's not talk about this. In order to find you, I made up my mind to publicize it hard at that time. If you see the newspaper, you will know me. I came back, but unfortunately it didn't have much effect. That's when I met the propaganda director of the Uehua department. You can call it the propaganda department or the propaganda team, a heavy cruiser." Augusta Sugu smiled happily, and even had a little malice. Then I taught her, you see body Fuzu, do you know?" Fuzu showed distress. Sugu took one look at her and knew that she definitely didn't understand, so he explained it carefully, but it felt like although she was nodding, she didn't understand the interesting part at all, and suddenly felt uninteresting. Missouri is more fun and can be mastered in just a few clicks. He remembered the first time he saw shocked in newspapers and magazines. "If it were me, I would be like this. You are not an admiral if you don't read, things that every admiral should know." The ship girl left the townhouse in the middle of the night. The reason was a title similar to a must-read for new admirals, which almost made me laugh out loud. Sugu continued to read the newspaper, and then remembered the joke about Tang Seng chatting with reporters about escort girls, and couldn't help but sigh. Journalists today are still responsible. Fuzu looked puzzled. Sugu laughed. Originally, every excellent reporter does not avoid hardships, is not afraid of powerful people, and is not greedy for money. He uses his pen to expose ugliness and uphold justice, making reporters the uncrowned kings. Although they are not as powerful as those officials. For a while, everyone must be wary of 3 points. When such a sacred profession begins to degenerate, reporters become prostitutes. Fabricating facts, taking quotes out of context, and making headlines. Sugu said, "It's not the you see that I just mentioned. If it's just that kind of thing that can be tolerated, there are even more outrageous things." "Why is it too much?" Fuzang asked appropriately. Sugu finally had a chance to show off, and he nodded happily. "A child can be taught." He thought of the news about Netiza's pig farm. He pointed at the newspaper. "Let's talk about this title. Nagashima Governor's Office found traces of Deep Sea Akagakaga. Deep Sea Akagakaga, Deep Sea Flagship, as long as the intelligence is normal, even if it's a mysterious confidence. Once you find out, you will definitely choose to retreat as soon as possible." After all, Fuzu still knows a little bit about how terrifying Akagakaga is in the deep sea. Sugu thought for a while. "Let's change the title. The Nagashima guards found traces of Akagakaga in the deep sea, and ran away in a hurry without firing a shot." "You are wrong. This title is not wrong. You want to say it is right, then it's hard to say. And this, the Admiral Hipper of the Fengmaiwan garrison accidentally fired at Sanmen town." "Change the title. The Admiral Hipper of the Fengmaiwan garrison bombarded Sanmen town. Ha 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 ha. Admiral, Admiral." Sugu was playing and changing the title, and when he was having fun, he heard Shivo's voice. Turning her head, she saw a cold-looking girl standing next to her. "Admiral, long time no see. You had a great time." Ayanami Sugu felt a little uncomfortable and looked at Shikinami. "Girl, how long have you been standing here? Can you remind me earlier?" Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 841. Who are those people? Miao Gao watched a group of people leave, walked into the corridor and disappeared. She returned to the office from the corridor and stood in front of the floor fan that shook its head. "It's still a little hot these days, rather it's getting hotter. When I came back from going out to do errands with Ayanami, I found many people waiting for Ayanami in the big office." She recognized a few of them. Among them, the lively girl with long blue hair was Fubuki, and the other quiet blue-haired girl was Shirayuki. Both of them were friends of Ayanami, and the other one looked cold and had a weak sense of presence. The girl with a ponytail is Ayanami's younger sister. But I don't know the rest of the people. There is a white-haired girl who is making noises, a little loli who is very cute, and a black-haired wife who is as big as Nades Hiko. She must be a wife. I don't know if she is. Anyway, she has an exaggerated figure. It makes people jealous, but at the end of the day, it's the man who makes people care a little bit. Definitely not a stranger, Ayanami's interviewee, or just a friend. This can be seen from the complicated expression on Ayanami's face. Ayanbo's colleague, the tall girl who originally told Sugu and his group that Ayanbo was out on business, said, "I asked them who they were looking for, what business, and who they were looking for." The man seemed to say he was Ayanbo's admiral. Ahem, Ayanami's admiral. Miao Gao was surprised. Although she does not have an admiral, she knows this very well. Although some people have gained the recognition of ship girls for various reasons and become admirals in a broad sense, their talents and minds are not suitable to become admirals in the true sense. Since there is no garrison, the admiral and ship girl can only engage in other jobs. But even so, unless there is some compelling reason, the admiral and the ship girl will not be separated easily. However, everyone has been working together for several years, and Ayanami's admiral has never appeared until he suddenly appeared today. No way. The tall girl shook her head. I wonder what happened to them. Let's think about Ayanami's usual behavior. Do you think it will be? Myoko crossed his chest with one hand and pinched his chin with the other, and started gossiping. As long as it is a woman, there is no gossip, only the degree. Not to mention the excitement, there are still a lot of staff in the big office, walking around, so of course there is no place for talking. Fubuki was still leading the way. On the way back to the apartment where Ayanami lived, Sugu said that he still had things to do in the town hall, and looked at Ayanami from time to time. The girl had a sharp temperament, not like the passionate girl she had heard everyone say in advance. If he were taller and his appearance was more mature, he would be the kind of powerful reporter, host, manager, and official who could easily control the whole situation. Ayanami's place of residence was naturally within the Songxiang County headquarters. Leaving the building where the propaganda department was located, he passed through a square covered with stone bricks with a fountain pool in the middle, 3 empty basketball courts, and there was a large auditorium. It took only a few minutes to arrive there. When I opened the door, I saw a small apartment with 1 bedroom and 1 living room. I heard someone said that there is a shrine with many ship girls in it. I thought it would be you, so I came over. I arrived yesterday, and that idiot Fubuki sprinkled a handful of salt on me. Fortunately, I wasn't blind. That's pretty much it. In detail, it can be said that it lasts all day and all night, and there is no end to it. After just speaking briefly, Sugu had already finished speaking when he sat down on the sofa in the living room. Ayanami didn't seem to have any intention of greeting anyone. He just pulled up a chair and sat down. He put one hand on the back of the chair and the other hand holding a water glass. He crossed his legs and said, "That's it?" Sugu replied, "Well, that's it." I know Ayanamai was non-committal and stopped talking. Changchun walked around without stopping. Looking at the photo frame placed on the long cabinet, I saw that the photo in the frame was a photo of Ayanamai and Chakia. When you rang the wind chime hanging on the window, the sound of jingling bells suddenly sounded. However, even so, Sugu felt quiet for a moment, and he was a little embarrassed. In the past, when chatting on the internet, I typed a long string of words, and the other party just responded with an emoticon, or said without any intention of communicating. If I was in a good mood, I would reply with an emoticon, but if I was in a bad mood, I would just close the dialog box. But at this time, it was obviously not easy to abandon Ayanamai and just do her own thing. Although everything happened because of the game, Sugu thought of what he had done and looked at Lingbo, feeling a little sorry and guilty. It was all because I heard people say, "Admiral, you're sorry to Ayanamai too many times," so I was affected. The environment is very important, and there are not many people who can stick to their own opinions. The first time I see a small house, I don't mind it at all. But after getting along for a long time, I felt the feelings of the ship girl, and I had already learned to feel guilty. Ayanamai actually became a reporter. Sugu tried hard to find a topic. Reporters in the field during normal operations. Sugu said, "Did you encounter any danger?" It's okay. When Ayanamai spoke, he reached out and tucked the hair behind his ears. Sugu saw Changchun, who had just walked out of the kitchen, and decided to use her as a breakthrough. Changchun is now a guided missile destroyer. Even if it is Solomon's ghost, Ayanamai is definitely not her opponent. Oh. Consultant Su, would you like to practice and try it out? I'm just a destroyer. Firefly is the initial ship, followed by Javelin, Z-21, Shirayuki, and then you and Shikinami. Queen of Heaven. I think of the Queen. Sugu said, "She is the best at knitting. Now she works as a tailor in the town guard house. Her favorite thing is to knit scarves for people. She is a little bit sinister, but she knows that fireflies don't need it. That's enough." Worried that everyone gave her a scarf as a gift, she gave her a firefly scarf every time. Lingbo still seemed to be in no mood to speak, but just responded. Sugu said his own, "Master Sukbader Su, you will never guess how she returned to the governor's mansion." Sugu paused. Seeing that Ayanamai had no intention of asking questions, he did not continue to tell the truth. She, and Odin, were put into a container and mailed back, as if they had joined the garrison before. Fuzang couldn't stand it any longer, so she said, "Admiral, do you still remember who joined the garrison first, me or Reputation?" Prestige. Sugu thought of Reputation, which was nicknamed the African god of war in the game, meaning that even Africans could easily obtain it. Except for a small part in the game, such as the North House and so on, it is not too difficult to obtain most powerful characters, such as Hood, Mrs. Lexington, sister-in-law Saratoga, etc. Although you don't need to spend a lot of Krypton money for a powerful person, you must be careful about the issue of brain control. Some of the hard-to-obtain, rare salvaged ship girls are just vases. If I hadn't made the decision to prepare for the exam and ruthlessly deleted the game, I might have continued to play it. Doing drills and running expeditions every day, it's almost enough to be a happy admiral of grass and laziness. The problem must be solved. Avoiding it is just treating the symptoms rather than the root cause. Sugu thought for a while. Colorado, Lexington, Lyon, Hood, Bizai, joined the garrison one by one, and the garrison became stronger little by little, which is the deep sea. Fuzu Base and Gibraltar Fortress were stuck for a while, and then it was time to move to Operation Valkyrie. I have to say, Deep Sea Tirpitz is really too powerful. Sugu thought of the armor of Tirpitz in the deep sea, which was 233, which was simply terrifyingly high. In this world where most ship girls are poorly equipped, lack full firepower, and have only a handful of 70 or 80 level of training, they are almost invincible. Fortunately, she also seems to be a deadly homebody. She usually hides in the depths of the sea and will not easily attack a ship unless she takes the initiative to provoke her. Even in the game, I remember that I spent a lot of time and couldn't kill him, but I finally read the guide and used the Aya killing immortal technique. Even so, I still tried so many times and encountered several attempts to persuade me to give up. After all, the door god is also a very terrifying existence. There was also Ayanamai Red Blood who entered the night battle. He failed to choose 1 or 2 out of 3. The hateful cunning man finally passed the level by chance. Shikinami whispered, "Really, Admiral Kun, you also said that who defeated Tirpitz of the Deep Sea, and the reward ring should have been given to my sister, but it was actually given to Bismarck." Stare. Sugu saw Shikiya staring at him closely, and he had already thought about what to do when facing Ayanamai. But if there is a problem like Kirov or Hornet, it is enough to return the equipment and it is easy to solve. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that it's hard to mention the ring. After all, it's not a child's toy or candy, so it might be considered an insult. Sugu's emotional intelligence is still good, but he is really not good at this kind of emotional issues. He hesitated for a while and finally made up his mind, Ayanamai, that. Stop. Ayanamai clenched her hand into a fist and held the side of her face. She interrupted Sugu, "Admiral, you don't want to do something stupid like a compensation ring." Sugu saw that there was no trace of resentment or reluctance on Lingbo's face, only a sneer, "No, no." Shivu wanted to kick Sugu, and thought to himself, what a fool. It was because she cared that her sister was so cold and cold. If she really let go, it would definitely not be like this. Instead, nothing would matter. In this case, I still like her in my heart. There is nothing that a hug cannot solve, and there is nothing that a ring cannot solve. It's okay if you don't. Ayanamai smiled stiffly, but not obviously, lowered her eyelids, looked away, and stopped looking at Sugu. Ayanamai spoke, but she didn't know whether it was true or false. "I remember that I was an emotional idiot before and didn't understand anything. I wanted to ask my 2 sisters Fubuki and Shirayuki for advice. Haha, now I am more like a sister than them. They should call me sister." Ayanamai looked at Sugu and said he smiled and said, "Who do you think you owe it to?" "Haha, please, don't be so sentimental." "Well, it seems that you have a greater relationship. Akage, Kaga, Ziwikaku, Megami, especially Mutsu, that guy said to me every day, 'Ayanamai, what a pity, Ayanamai, the Admiral actually gave the ring he gave you to Bismarck, that bastard, hit him.' It's all a wedding ship day after day, year after year. If you listen to it too much, you will understand it no matter how hard you understand it." "Why do you need to understand?" whispered. "I just defeated Deep Sea Tirpitz. Even if you gave me the ring at that time, I wouldn't take it. But it was too decisive to give it to Bismarck. She was embarrassed to take it. Don't deny it. After the Valkyrie event, you can give me the ring again. Maybe you will accept it? But no, there is nothing. I remember I used to lie to myself, you gave the ring to Bismarck, but I didn't feel good about it. You know this, so if you notice it in the future, there will definitely be. Later, I had to accept the reality, you haven't thought about me at all. I didn't know what love was before, but now I understand. Love and rings are not a matter of one person, but a matter of 2 people. It's not that I like you, you must like you, otherwise you are a scumbag. Of course I don't like it, if you insist on teasing others, you must be a scumbag. Of course, it cannot be ruled out that some ship girls are like South Dakota, who like to be sentimental." The Admiral smiled at himself and thought of dates, rings, and honeymoons. Having said so much, I am sure of one thing, Ayanamai said, today, I assigned Akagi or whoever to the secretaryship. After a while, when my favor is full, I will immediately replace him with Kage or whoever. The admiral will definitely, he is a well-deserved emotional liar. They have told you, right now, I am a reporter, a war reporter. I go to and from the battlefield and report on the war situation, just like you did before, war reporter Ayanamai. Besides being a war reporter, my favorite thing to do is to interview those who the admiral is a scumbag and a heartless man, and then he scolded that person in the newspaper. The last person was called Hyde Sakurada, and I wrote a whole page about it, but if it was an admiral, it would be hard to write about it. Admiral, how many wedding ships are there? Sugu thought for a while and replied, 13. There are actually so many. Sugu lowered his head. Does the admiral know, Ayanamai asked, how many people in the garrison like you? The game has already attracted ship girls who are very fond of them. Even if Washington and Scharnhorst don't show it clearly, they still know their feelings. Now that things have happened, many people have been together for so long, and their good feelings have definitely improved. Lexington, Missouri has said more than once that it's okay to knock down the Hornets now. But there are some people who don't show any obvious performance, like San Juan, Exeter, etc. I don't know how much they like them. Sugu told the truth, I know a little bit. Ayanamai smiled, it's far more than 13, 23, 33, at least 43. Sugu was speechless. Not only likes to deceive feelings, Ayanamai stretched out her hand, clenched it into a fist, and opened her fingers one by one. She likes the new and dislikes the old, and the clothes are not as good as the new and the people are not as good as the new. Unscrupulously taking everyone's equipment, Kirov's cannon, Bumblebee's B-25. They are just typical, and there are many others. They like to harass people the most, poke Helena's breasts, and lick the feet of fantasy. Well, haven't you done that? Yes. At most, they just touch them. He. I never care about the turbulent situation on the battlefield. It is not something I can control whether I fight a big ship or a small boat. If I fight a big ship, I will be smart. If I fight a small ship, I will be a fool, and worthless. If someone is injured, I will never feel sorry for him, I will only scold him. Otherwise, it's just that Dupo is so cute, let's show it a little more. To complete the mission, the big mackerel and archer fish are yours. It's fast to repair with low training level, and it consumes less as a submarine. I still don't understand, how many deep seas are required to be defeated. Ship Girl can still understand why there is such a strange mission. I have been unable to fish out the ship, so I am no longer the admiral. When I encounter a problem, the deep sea ship girl is really powerful. If I can't defeat it, I won't get the medal. It's not about trying harder or changing my thinking. It's not if I consume a little more resources, it's not because my garrison is not strong enough, but because I no longer want to be an admiral. The garrison has become very powerful, and sometimes it's boring, so I no longer want to be an admiral. Sugu explained, it's just shouting. I know you were just shouting, Ayanamai said, I left for 1 day, 2 days, and still came back. Ayanamai put down her crossed legs and hugged her knees with both hands, it's understandable. All the above are understandable. It's completely understandable. You have worked so hard, thought of so many ways, consumed so many resources, and spent so much money. Time, nothing. After being an admiral for so long, I no longer have the passion. So the admiral doesn't want to be an admiral anymore, no matter it's 1 day, 2 days, a week, or a month, even a little longer. When the admiral comes back, the admiral is still the admiral, everything is as usual, everyone is still there, and the port area is still the same. I firmly believe that the admiral will never abandon everyone. I just hope that that day will not wait too long. No, no, I'm off topic. It's so confusing. Where did I say it? Ayanamai said, so, if you behave badly, don't do good things, don't keep your promises, cheat on your feelings, you can come and leave as you please, you should think it through. After all this, why do you have to wait so long for such a guy? You still want to grow up and get in better shape, why should you like him? You are so stupid. Just by fishing me out, just by living together for a long time, just because I am an admiral, just because I am the only one, just because of what? If you want to give it to Bismarck, you can give it to Bismarck or anyone else. When the game became reality, Sugu still couldn't figure out whether the ship girl's feelings were real or fake. Sugu looked at Lingbo and saw a mocking smile on her face, with tears in her eyes. Then she blinked and raised her head. Sugu took a deep breath, stood up, hugged Lingbo gently, and pressed his forehead against hers. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 842. When Sugu was away from the garrison, all official duties fell on the secretary ship Lexington. Well, even if Sugu was in the guardhouse, she would mostly be handling the official affairs. The sea breeze blew the curtains and blew away the heat. In the office, Lexington's long flaxen hair was tied up, and he was wearing a white admiral's hat. He was sitting behind his desk, flipping through documents one after another, as if he were an admiral. She liked dressing like this so much that for several nights, Sugu complained about her excessive demands. Lexington, you just want to kill me and then ascend to the throne of admiral, you woman obsessed with power. I was given a good lesson at that time, and finally I begged, Madam, I was wrong, please spare me and I'm sorry, you sir have a lot of trouble. I was finally forgiven. Washington, please check if there is any problem with this contract. Even the perfect wife can work in the hall or the kitchen, but she has specialization in the art. The kitchen is the world of Yuxian, and only a few people such as Fuzang and Xianghe can do it. In war, in terms of legal provisions, Washington is more likely to keep his word. Lexington read the documents, dug out a document and handed it to Washington. Washington took the contract, put it on Erlang's crossed legs, and held a coffee cup in one hand to taste it slowly. She read the contract carefully. I didn't find any problems. Normally, no one would do anything wrong when cooperating with the town guard. The main reason is that everyone in the Admiral Circle knows each other. The two garrison houses are not two companies with the same business, competing with each other to lower prices, but working together. If someone cheats an admiral, all the admirals will soon know about it, and then no more town will cooperate with you. No one will do it because of small losses. Of course, this is the theory. No matter what, it's better to be careful. Lexington put away the documents sent back by Washington and said casually, Washington, have you read the newspaper recently? Huh, Washington looked at Lexington. There was a homeless ship girl who was escorting a stowaway ship and was caught by the gendarmerie. Don't you know that you can't do this kind of thing? Today, Washington did not tie his white hair into a ponytail as usual, and his sharp and serious temperament softened a bit. However, his words were still rude. There is a hole in the head. Don't say that. Lexington still felt a little sympathetic to the ship girl. The ship girl headquarters explicitly prohibits such things, but some wandering ship girls are not that understanding and are too naive. They think they are doing a good thing by helping people smuggle to developed areas. Little do they know that this is illegal, and then they ship their own ships. Mother's identity is so sensitive. Get a good education in the military police. Washington had no sympathy. The military police not only arrest Lolita admirals, but also target all admirals and ship girls at the same time. When necessary, they even do some pretty cruel things. The documents had been processed, and without the admiral around, he was bored. Lexington poured himself a glass of water and said, "I heard that a townhouse salvaged a large amount of resources. It's really good luck. It's enough to build several times. It's on the news. The little guys in our town hall swim outside every day, but they haven't found any underwater shipwrecks that contain history. The town hall has gained a lot of resources. We agreed not to go far, only to stay near the garrison, but they still abide by the rules. Our garrison is not in the depths of the sea, and any resources have been discovered long ago." Washington thought of something. "U-47 doesn't know I found a big pearl somewhere and danced it around in the town hall. Leipzig found out and cheated me away with a box of chocolates. Leipzig, this is too much." Washington joked, "You must be envious." "I'm not envious, I don't need to," Lexington said, "because the admiral doesn't like pearls too much, he doesn't think they look very good. Although I think they are very beautiful, the pearls are crystal clear, round and full, very beautiful." Washington sighed, "You have lived for him your whole life." "Aren't you?" Lexington laughed, and she would also tease, "Hey, Washington, it's up to me to make the decision and let the admiral accept you as the 14th wife." His heart beat shamefully, but Washington remained calm on the surface. "Don't be kidding." "Don't you want to?" Lexington smiled happily and tapped his lips with his fingers. "Washington, I heard that you have a blank piece of paper signed, sealed, and fingerprinted by the admiral. It has been a long time. What do you want to do?" "What?" While the two were talking, a person hurried into the office. "Sister, it's not good, something serious is going to happen." Lexington saw the blonde girl, who was his sister. She didn't look like him at all and was quite irritable. "Gaga, why are you in such a hurry? What happened?" "I just arrived at my brother-in-law's room, and then Saratoga was out of breath from running so hard." "Did you go to your brother-in-law's room again?" Lexington said. Washington was listening. She wanted to tell Lexington that Gaga was also a wedding ship, so don't really think of her as your sister-in-law. But the person involved didn't care. Saratoga said, "I saw Colin running to my brother-in-law's room. I usually sleep in my brother-in-law's bed. I won't talk about her, but this time she was rummaging through the cabinets and there were no rules at all. I asked her what to do. She said she was looking for photos and wanted to see them. I helped her get the photos, and then, I found that the vow ring in the drawer was missing. The sun leaked out from the clouds and disappeared soon after. It was a rare good weather on such a cloudy day. In the living room, no one spoke, even the two noisy guys Changchun and Chawixu, they just watched for fear of disturbing others. After hugging and comforting her for a while, Sugu let go of Lingbo. "The admiral really knows how to take advantage of girls." Ayanamai recovered and straightened her hair. She wasn't arrogant, so she didn't yell at Sugu to beat him. Obviously he didn't do anything. It was just a game. No matter what he did, it didn't matter. After all, he couldn't talk about feelings with the paper man. When I heard Ayanamai's accusation and saw her tears welling up, I still felt deeply guilty that she had done something heinous. Sugu smiled and said the sentence to another person, "I won't leave again, I swear." She is not good at joking, but as a gentle elder sister, she still knows what to do at this time. Fuzu stepped forward to smooth things over. "I believe that the admiral will not let everyone down." "I also believe in admiral, we made an agreement." Fubuki raised his hand. "So what if you don't believe it?" Ayanbo sneered and lowered her head. "In the past, when going into and out of the battlefield, no matter how many enemies there was no fear. But when I woke up at night and thought about the admiral, my pillow was soaked with tears. Occasionally, as a reporter, I would interview others, and I would dare to quarrel with him no matter who he was, no matter how big the governor was. Faced with the kind of ship girl who follows a bad admiral wholeheartedly, She behaves like a feminist fighter, lamenting her misfortune and getting angry at her. Now it's my turn, not just follow them. The admiral, who is worse than anyone else, has been away for so long, and now that he is back, he still dare not say, if an admiral like you has the nerve to come back, get lost. You are not my admiral, and I am not your ship. Mother, I didn't even dare to say anything that might cause misunderstanding, so I called her admiral when they met. What was originally a harsh accusation turned into a complaint like that of an abandoned little girl, and she even wished that the hug from the admiral could last longer. I thought I was already very powerful, but it turns out that no matter how weak I am just a waste. I won't leave until I say I'll leave. Now my ambition is to build the best garrison where everyone can be happy, Sugu emphasized again, not only because everyone is nice, but as an admiral, he is a soft-boiled person. One of them even agreed to Xiaozai. Thinking of what someone had done, Ayanamai said, "You said this, do you believe it?" Sugu whispered, "Of course I believe it, and I keep doing it." "Does anyone believe it?" Sugu said, "I won't speak, you let Fuzang do the talking." Fuzu hadn't spoken yet, and Fubuki was easily satisfied. Even though Sugu had done something small, the admiral has changed a lot. Sugu was also going to say something and praise himself. He didn't say it before, but now that he is an admiral, there is absolutely no dereliction of duty. He just opened his mouth and found Shikinami staring at him faintly. Although he didn't make a sound, he knew that she wanted to say something, and it was nothing more than a ring. Sugu looked at his own backpack placed next to the long cabinet. Inside were a camera and a change of clothes. In addition to these, there was a small red box containing a vow ring. In fact, he didn't plan to take it with him at first, but the night before he left the town hall, Ziwahi ran to his room and rummaged through the drawer. I remember at that time I thought she was here again because of Xianghe's affairs. After all, she mentioned it every few days, so I said helplessly, I said, "We will get married when the time comes, don't worry." Unexpectedly, Ruhi would answer like this, "It's not for my sister, I want to tell Ayanamai, are you really not going to give her a ring? She's still a girl." Although Ayanamai is considered his ship girl, in a sense, no one knows her at all. The short hair is very aesthetically pleasing, but the figure is not good at all, it's so pitiful. Of course, this is not the reason. Fletcher has such a good figure. Because he likes to be naked in his room, he will always encounter accidents in life for so many years. There is also the unconscionable relationship between Sigsby and Thatcher. In short, I saw her all. Even so, still not married. Called a girl, the destroyer is still too young. Take it with you, maybe I can save your life when the time comes. Although he knew Ruhi was joking, he still put on the ring by some strange coincidence. Sugu still hesitated, because he felt that what Lingbo just said made sense. If he gave the ring at this time, it would definitely not be love, but just compensation. Xianghe rejected the ring in the first place because he felt that his love was not enough. But think about it again, when I gave Helena the ring before, there was actually no emotion at all, it was just compensation. She accepted the ring and felt happy for a while. Ziwahi and counterattack can be said to be natural, but Akagi and Colorado are very proactive. To put it harshly, just like many people who take over a goddess, they know that the goddess doesn't like them at all, but they still happily accept it. Changchun looked at Sugu, Shikia, and Lingbo, and she became thoughtful. She knew that Sugu and others brought rings because she had gone through the backpack. She also knew what Sugu had done before, giving Bismarck the ring that Lingbo should have. Changchun walked to Sugu's backpack, dug out the small red box, and held it in his hand. "Lingbo, the ring the admiral gave you." Seeing Changchun take out the ring, Sugu naturally couldn't remain silent. "Lingbo, take it, it's what belongs to you." "I've already said it, if it's still a game, a ship girl can't refuse the ring. However, it is no longer a game. Every ship girl has her own ideas, and Ayanamai is not such an unscrupulous person. She knew her admiral's feelings, and he definitely didn't like her. Although I really want it, because I got the ring, I can get closer to the admiral. Where are the people without moral integrity? It's here. After Ayanbo expressed his attitude, Changchun opened the small red box on his own, took out the ring from it, and looked at Sugu. Don't be sad, Ayanbo, why don't you give it to me, Admiral? Then without waiting for Sugu to speak, Changchun opened his fingers and thought about where to wear the ring. As a girl, she still knew a little bit about it, so she put the ring on the ring finger of her left hand. Yeah, now I'm also on a wedding anniversary. The ring is so beautiful, it's mine. She looked at Sugu. Admiral, husband. Ayanamai clenched her fists. Over and over again. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 843. This is a shop, and the wall fan is shaking its head feebly. Fubuki stood in front of the refrigerator, looked at the ice cream, and then turned his eyes to the Coke on the side, hesitating which one he should take. The creamy ice cream called Little Pudding is so good. If you are lucky, you might even win a prize and get another one. However, Coca-Cola, which can corrode people's minds, is simply a demon. After drinking it in one gulp and then burping, it would not be replaced by a god. Changchun walked to Chui Shui, holding an ice cream in one hand and a can of Coke in the other. When passing by the high shelves, he saw shrimp crackers, potato chips, grapefruit candies, and delicious bars placed on them. He held the Coke between his index finger and middle finger, and the ice cream between his middle finger and ring finger. He freed up one hand to grab a handful of snacks, walked to the cashier and put them down. I'll just take these. Frowning his brows slightly, Changchun saw the glass counter in the corner again, walked over and said what he just said without knowing it. Seeing that she was going to get snacks, Sugu quickly stopped her and said, Changchun, that's enough for you. It wasn't that he was stingy and couldn't bear to part with such a small amount of money. The main reason is that instead of going home directly, I plan to walk around, and it is really inconvenient to carry a large bag of snacks. Thinking about it, it doesn't seem to be inconvenient. When Changchun turned around, he waved his hand. It's okay. Sugu saw the snacks placed on the cashier and remembered that when he was a child, in the first or second grade, there was little money at home. He only had a dime or two a day, which was enough to buy a piece of fried sweet potato, a piece of boiled radish, and a skewer, kelp, or a pack of snacks. Of course, you can also draw a lottery, although I can't remember what the prizes were. Anyway, it was very attractive to me at the time. Then much later, when I opened my own store, I realized how many twists and turns there were in this kind of lottery. Don't think about the first and second prizes. I had already taken out the winning scratch-off ticket. It was completely negotiable. Evil. Figure Sugushun picked up a pack of snacks. It felt very similar to what he ate when he was a child. He turned it over and saw that the ingredients were written with shredded radish, white sugar, and salt. After a moment, he figured it out. What's going on? Why don't you be so deceptive? Why are you trying to trick people? Our store is so honest. Sitting behind the cashier, lying on top of the cashier, judging from her appearance, she is probably a ship girl. After all, she is cute and beautiful, but she doesn't know what model it is. The little girl raised her head. Sugu didn't feel indignant. After all, it was such a cheap thing. He just said in a funny way, look at this. The little girl picked up a bag of snacks and looked at it. She didn't react for a while. She turned over and over for a while before she realized it. She laughed and thought about it for a while. Wife cakes don't have wives. Crab sticks are actually made of fish. Fish. There is no fish in the fragrant shredded pork, and not only the husband and wife beef slices are missing, but there is also no beef slices. Sugu looked serious. Is this why you sell pork cubes as beef cubes? The little girl blinked in confusion. We don't sell beef cubes here. Sugu smiled and didn't explain. There is no scorching sun, and I don't know how to make a long squeak noise incessantly. After leaving the store and walking downhill on the road, Sugu was carrying a big bag of snacks, most of which were bought by Changchun. However, regardless of who bought it, he randomly took a can of Coke and handed it to Fuzu, and then took another can of Coke and handed it to others. While drinking Coke, Sugu noticed that Lingbo looked at Changchun's fingers with a bad expression, remembering what happened not long ago. Regardless of whether it was related to the game or something else, it was something he did wrong. Sugu decided to give Lingbo the ring, but she didn't want it. Changchun was quite unruly. Seeing that Ayanamai didn't want it, he picked up the ring and put it on. To a certain extent, what she did can be said to have inspired Ayanamai. Another person might have shouted, "I didn't say I don't want it anymore," and accepted the ring, but Ayanamai still didn't accept it and just kept a straight face. To be honest, even though he knew that the lovely Changchun was just for fun, after all, he had asked for the ring when he saw it on the cruise ship, Sugu still had the slightest idea of going along with the situation. However, that situation was definitely not possible at that time. If she really took advantage of the situation and gave her the Changchun ring, Ayanamai probably turned black on the spot and turned into a deep-sea ship girl. After all, the ring passed by me before. This time, although I said I didn't want it first, but I gave it to someone else immediately, please think about the consequences. So he could only say don't mess around and then punched Changchun on the head. However, Changchun was unwilling to take off the ring just like that and insisted on wearing it a little longer. Then we sat in the living room and talked for a while. Changchun has a restless character and must do something. However, Ayanamai's daily life is quite simple. There are no snacks in the room. As for fruit, there are only a few apples, which have been left for many days, and the skins are wrinkled. There are no novels or comics. Although there are some magazines and newspapers, it can be said that they are not eaten. Nothing to see. She clamored to go out for a walk, but she didn't necessarily want anyone to accompany her. But Sugu also wanted to go out for a walk, so everyone came out together. Does the Admiral know? Fubuki has been here several times and even lived here for a while, and she pointed in one direction. Songxiang County is so big that it surrounds a mountain, but it is only because it is in the suburbs that it has such a scale. There is a shrine over there, a little bigger than our shrine. What is it called? It seems to be Hirashid Shrine. Sugu was a little curious. Why don't you just become witches here? We are not Maiko, we just act as Maiko when we have nothing to do, and we usually have to go to school, Fubuki said. Besides, this shrine is not our shrine, so you can go if you want. I've always been curious, why don't you just go to school here, Consultant Su? For a country to provide compulsory education for all, it costs a lot of money. But there are not many ship girls in the world. If you are a destroyer, no matter which ship girl branch you go to, you can be taken in. Especially for destroyers, there is no need to spend money to go to school or anything else. Of course, when necessary, it is necessary to attack, after all, it is the ship girl. Fubuki clasped her hands behind her back. I don't want to transfer to another school, and there's no point in coming here. Those instructors are not as good as me. Suddenly thinking of something, Fubuki suddenly snickered. Admiral, let me tell you. This side is the warehouse. Then that building is the cafeteria, the one covered with green vines outside, the second floor of the cafeteria, the indoor stadium. There are basketball courts, volleyball courts, badminton courts, table tennis tables, everything, as well as a Kyoto activity room, and a lot of fitness equipment. Past the cafeteria, there is a school, a lot of destroyers. Some already have admirals, and some don't have admirals. I know which ones don't have admirals. Which ones? Consultant Sue. We already have Z1 in the tutelage. Eskimo, her ship uniform is so silly. There are also Z3, Shiranui, Take, Matsuki, and many, many more. Fubuki said. By the way, there is also Minkaze, who has a weak personality. She's even smaller than a submarine, but she's very small. She looks even younger than a submarine, a little girl. Feng Sugu said to himself. He had seen Feng before. Of course, this Feng was not the other Feng, but it could be used as a reference. Even though it was just a white boat, he wanted one especially. Let's go to the school and have a look. Fubuki, are you familiar with her? If you can bring her back to the town hall, you can do whatever you want. He saw Ayanami, who was looking at him with disgust, and said against his will, "You're kidding, you're kidding." After walking half a circle, Sugu sat under a pavilion next to a pond. Sugu asked Lingbo curiously, "Lingbo, I heard Akage say that you used to be very passionate and a fighting maniac, but now you have become so mature." Ayanami said, "People change. Isn't it said that for a ship girl, the spirit of a battleship, when they mature mentally, their appearance will change accordingly? The appearance comes from the heart." Sugu has also seen many destroyers become adults due to their mental maturity. Of course, from not too much in terms of proportion. But looking at Ayanami, it's obvious that she hasn't changed much. She's still as tall as Fubuki, a little taller than Fubuki and Shirayuki. Ayanami laughed, "If I grow up, will the admiral still recognize me?" Sugu paused and thought, is it for his own sake that he doesn't want to grow up? Ayanami immediately saw through his thoughts and sneered, "Admiral, you don't think that I am doing it for you, so just keep looking like this. This kind of thing is not something we can control. We grow old overnight and grow up overnight." Sugu's ability to quarrel is not low, and it is all developed through training. Normally, Ruhi still likes to argue, although he has become less so since he got married. York City were vulnerable, although now getting stronger. The main opponent is still Missouri, an evenly matched opponent, so you are just pretending to be like this now. Of course not. A black-haired woman dressed like a housemaid walked by. Sugu looked at her, then curiously looked at Fuzu sitting next to him, and asked Ayanami, "That should be the Fuzu?" "Yes, after staying here for so long, Ayanami knew most of the people," she replied, and she asked curiously, "How do you know?" "You can tell from the figure." Fuzang listened beside him and subconsciously hugged his chest. Sugu saw it and felt like he was playing a hooligan. Ayanami said bluntly, "It's vulgar." Walking on the embankment on the beach in the afternoon, Sugu saw two people practicing on the sea not far away, and he instantly recognized the model from their ship uniforms. After all, after being an admiral for so long, I can still recognize him with my eyesight. Changchun leaned on the guardrail of the seaside and stretched out his hand to drive away the rogue seagulls who wanted to snatch the snacks in his hand. "No, not at all. They are from the battle group." Heavy cruiser Ayanami squinted at Changchun and saw that she was still wearing a ring on her left hand. It should have been her own ring, and she gritted her teeth. She didn't know how powerful a guided missile destroyer was, but she knew that a heavy cruiser was still a destroyer killer even if its training level was lower. "I used to be in the battle group," Changchun said. "In our place, I got the most stars, more than anyone else. Sink a deep-sea ship, a victory, a gold star." Ayanami saw the ring on Changchun's hand again. She also had a temper. She snorted and laughed, her expression clearly disbelieving. Changchun saw it and became dissatisfied. "I heard from the admiral that you are very powerful," Ayanami said. "Shall we give it a try?" "Okay." Changchun quickly stood up and geared up, showing off his ship uniform. There was nothing hideous or terrifying about it. Forget it, don't fight, give me some face. Sugu looked at Lingbo and said bluntly that you are no match for Changchun, so don't get bored. Even if you are Aya Zhanxian and have killed turpits in the deep sea, you can't do it in front of Changchun. She really does whatever she wants, unless you have super high armor and durability. It's okay, it's just a drill. Of course Lingbo wouldn't listen to Sugu's words. She waved her hand and said, I haven't been active for a long time. There is no way to stop it, we can only let them. When Changchun and Ayanamai walked onto the sea, Sugu said to Fubuki, Fubuki, do you think Changchun is powerful? He belongs to the Japanese family. The ghost and god nicknamed Solomon. Historically, he relied on his own efforts in the Solomon Sea battle and under unfavorable circumstances. At least 4 enemy ships were damaged, including the South Dakota and the Ayanamai. Is Ayanazansen better? Fubuki didn't have that much thought, it must be Ayanamai. Small gambling makes you happy, big gambling hurts your health. Sugu said, let's make a bet. The bet is. Of course, when the Changchun launched the missile and the missile flew towards the Ayanamai with its long flame tail, Ayanamai's failure was inevitable. The missile's horrific damage is hard for a battleship to deal with, but its hit rate is particularly high. It is said that Ling Zhanxian is unable to cope with the unreasonable for King Kong Changchun. After all, historically speaking, the two are not battleships of the same era at all. When Ayanamai returned to the shore, she was in a state of embarrassment and silent. Changchun was jumping all the way, and when he saw Sugu, he rushed towards him, hooked his neck with his hands, and said, Hey, Admiral, I won again, I must be awesome. Awesome. I am #1 in the world. Yes, yes, Sugu said, okay, you can let me go. Only then did Changchun let go of Sugu, put a hand on his chest, nodded repeatedly, like a chicken pecking at rice, I'm that good. Stop showing off. Sugu looked gloomy when he saw Lingbo's expression. Changchun grabbed Sugu's palm with both hands and shook it, but nothing went right. She glanced at Ayanbo and remembered what Sugu liked to say every time he won in a game, it's useless to be angry in this game. Changchun didn't deliberately suppress the sound. Lingbo heard it and almost trembled all over. She gripped the barrel of the naval gun tightly, picked up the naval gun and smashed it down on her head and face. I can't bear it anymore, no need to bear it anymore.